Chapter 819 Chapter 819 The fierce battle within the cave as these terrifying divine light expanded. Even some transcendent realm experts were having difficulty withstanding its vibration. The half-step transcendent realm experts and the great sage experts of the true martial school felt an immense amount of pressure crushing them, as if the entire sky was going to crumble. When hundreds of transcendent realm experts unleashed their attacks together, it was sufficient to destroy the whole cosmos. Fortunately, just when they were almost unable to withstand it any further, a blood-colored barrier materialized in front of them and blocked the waves of energy ripples. Otherwise, they would have been deeply wounded, with some of them perishing. It was conceivable how terrifying this horrible impact was. Under such force, the hole became larger and larger. Without the mountain moving, a cave appeared from within, which excited everyone. It was precisely the same as how the text described it to be. In other words, it would be much easier to locate the mythical pathway. The instant the cave appeared, a wave of terrifying black miasma came surging out and rushed towards the sky. In almost an instant, black clouds were formed in the air, which covered the miasma that was initially there. Everyone's gaze turned serious. Only when the miasma was sealed for too many years would it form such a terrifying miasma. Everyone was quietly waiting, and no one rushed upwards. They would only enter after the miasma were all released. Yi Shiwen, be careful. We aren't aware of what kind of troubles lie ahead within this cave. You don't have to rush in as well. After all, with your strength, you'll have your place here. Yi Mo reminded. This cave is too weird. Yi Ziwen's expression was also twisted. Upon hearing Yi Mo's words, he affirmed his feelings. Little brother Yi, who knew that we would meet each other again, after delivering a voice transmission to the true martial school's disciples, reminding them to be careful and not act rashly, a clear, laughing voice resounded near him. Upon looking towards the voice source, the person he saw was no other than the man he had previously met by the tea shop, Li Feng. Senior Li, said Yi Shiwen as he cupped his hands, being courteous. Even until now, Yi Shiwen was still unable to see through Li Feng's cultivation. Li Feng's cultivation was still far higher than Yi Shiwen, or he had some martial arts which helped to conceal his cultivation, just like Yi Ziwen's aura convergence martial art. How long has it been? Your speed of progression is truly shocking, said Li Feng with a hint of surprise. And yet am still inferior to you, said Yi Shiwen as he smiled bitterly. While he might be considered a top-notch expert beneath the starry skies, he still couldn't see through Li Feng. This is nothing. You'll surely reach my stage one day, said Li Feng indifferently. In other words, he was admitting that he was stronger than Yi Shiwen. Later, 10 token plates will appear from within. If you want to leave here, you must acquire one of them. Suddenly, Yi Shiwen received Li Feng's voice transmission. Yi Shiwen was startled. He didn't know why Li Feng would tell him such important news. He didn't doubt Li Feng either. After all, Li Feng had no reason to lie to him. All right, I shall take my leave first, said Li Feng. After staring intently at Xiaoya, he turned around, turned into a stream of light, and rushed within the cave. Seeing that someone had made a move, the various experts around finally couldn't hold it in any longer. They were afraid of being slower than others, and thus being unable to reap the benefits within. Hundreds of experts rushed within the cave in an instant. Then, Yi Shiwen finally led the true martial school group within the cave. Everyone was advancing quickly. After a short while, they had already reached the deep parts of the cave. While the cave didn't seem big from the outside, the inside was truly spacious. Roar! When Yi Shiwen and his group entered, the crowd had already ventured far deeper. They could only hear the roars of beasts resounding from within, followed by the yells of the transcendent realm experts and the explosive sounds of combat. Everyone dared not delay any further and instantly rushed forward, only to be greeted by a shocking scene. More than 10 zombies clad in a fur coat were blocking in front of them and were fighting against hundreds of transcendent realm experts. If it weren't for their dense death chi, Yi Shiwen wouldn't have been able to identify these furry beasts as zombies. A furry zombie rushed into the 8-Star School's crowd and grabbed towards the 8-Star School's sect leader, which was being protected in the center. The smell of blood reeked from his wound, which Yi Shiwen had inflicted, making the furry zombie attracted to him. Everyone in the 8-Star School displayed a formation and wanted to fend this furry zombie off. The furry zombie didn't know what kind of expert was in front of it. Instead, it unleashed its vast ghost claw and scratched towards the 8-Star School's school leader. Various elders from the 8-Star School unleashed their horrifying saber-lights and stood in front of the ghost claw. Clang! When their long saber clashed against the huge furry hand, the sound of metal clashing resounded. However, the claw wasn't hurt at all. Its hand continued its advancement towards the 8-Star School's school leader. The 8-Star School's school leader was instantly enraged. Previously, he had already been shamed by Yi Shiwen outside. Now, even this beast was treating him like a weakling. He immediately unleashed a terrifying saber light and stood atop the vast ghost claw. Plish! The saber light could only leave a scratch on that all-encompassing ghost claw. The saber light wasn't able to stop its advancement. The 8-Star School leader was shocked. He never expected his full-force attack to be powerless in stopping the ghost claw's advancement. It instantly enraged him further. However, the ghost claw's direction of advancement had been altered. It clawed towards a transcendent realm elder beside him. Ah! The elder let out a tragic scream. The colossal hand pierced through his chest, and his heart was crushed. Blood was gushing out from his body, along with his organs that were crushed into bits. Everything was so eerie and gory. In only an instant, a terrifying transcendent realm expert was killed. The true martial school's martial warriors broke out in cold sweat upon witnessing it. If it wasn't for Yi Shiwen, it might have happened to them, which will result in all of them being massacred. They never expected such a terrifying zombie to still exist. Each of them had the combat prowess of a sect master level expert, and their physiques were impregnable. Other than being a little slow, they didn't seem to have any form of weakness. However, when they were merely guarding this location, their weakness didn't seem like a weakness anymore. Kill them? Only by killing them will we locate the passage. Someone shouted, which strongly motivated the martial warriors to fight. Various experts unleashed their attacks at the same time, which was a terrifying sight to behold. When different kinds of lost martial arts were unleashed together, it was sufficient to cause the world to collapse. At this moment, the ancient cave was resounding with the roars of the furry zombies and the experts' yells within. Boom! 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 Terrifying explosion sounds resounded everywhere. These monsters' bodies were like metal and weren't afraid of any attacks. They rushed straight into the experts' formations. Under the continuous attack of tens of those monsters, the martial warriors' factions were continually retreating. Although their fighting spirit had been kindled, they were still fearful of the stagnant situation they couldn't overcome. Humph! A cold snort resounded from the middle-aged man who mediated the situation earlier. Only by now did Yi Shiwen know that he was the sect master of the Burning Heavens sect, one of the extraterrestrial overlord factions. He flew upwards and materialized a massive blazing door. He then used the door to oppress the furry zombie. This was the Burning Heavens sect's garrison martial instrument, the Burning Heavens door. According to the rumors, the Burning Heavens sect's ancestors acquired this martial instrument by luck, along with various martial arts and lost techniques beside it. He used these resources to establish the Burning Heavens sect and ultimately reigned a domain. The martial arts and the Burning Heavens door that he had acquired were all powerful. The furry zombie let out an enraged roar and unleashed a supreme fist art. A surge of terrifying fist intent was being launched towards the massive door. Boom! The fist intent was nothing in the face of the blazing Burning Heavens door. In almost an instant, the fist intent was burned to crisps. The Burning Heavens door's momentum was unabated, and it continued rushing towards that furry zombie. Bang! The furry zombie let out a tragic scream as it watched its body being burned by the snow-white flames. The flame was so hot, it turned the furry zombie into ashes. The Burning Heavens sect master's face was a little pale. When activating the Burning Heavens door, even if he didn't utilize it to the maximum, it was still too exhausting to do so. He couldn't just keep operating the Burning Heavens door like that. The battle here was considered insignificant. After all, the Burning Heavens sect wasn't the only one that brought their garrison martial instruments. Some other forces had brought it as well and were now forced to use it. All of a sudden, the battle between them and the zombies entered a stagnant state. Everyone in the true martial school let out a sigh of relief. These zombies were powerful and possessed the combat prowess of a sect master. In fact, they were much stronger than the sect master level experts within the hundreds of Transcendent Realm experts. Fortunately, the Transcendent Realm experts had brought along their garrison martial instruments, which managed to hold the zombies back. If they continued their massacre in this manner, the zombies would ultimately be eradicated. However, Yishuan finally couldn't hold it in anymore. He rushed forward and fought against a furry zombie. Behind him, the true martial school could only work together to hold back a furry zombie. They didn't dare to do things rashly. After all, they didn't have a sect master level expert among them, and Huang Wuji was still far from reaching it. Chapter 820. Chapter 820. Acquiring the token plate among the group of Transcendent Realm experts. Only the sect master level experts possess deterrence, just like the true martial school's former schoolmaster and the Old City Lord. Upon locating a furry zombie, Yishuan started fighting against it. The furry zombie's flesh was genuinely impregnable. What's more, there was even poison coated around its body. When tainted by it, one might even transform into a zombie. This was indeed a terrifying poison. Other than their body being stiff and their speed being a little slow, they didn't possess any weakness. For Yishuan, they were like some rare punching bags. Indeed, while others thought of these furry zombies as extremely dangerous entities, they were not more than punching bags in the eyes of Yishuan. Boom! 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 Yishuan could utilize his full strength without any worries and didn't hold back at all. Only these zombies would be able to withstand his horrifying attacks. The two sides returned to the most primitive brawl. There weren't any kinds of fancy martial arts or techniques anymore. There was only the brawl using pure strength and physique. A punch, another punch, yet another punch. After 100 punches, the furry zombie was finally unable to withstand Yi Zaiwen's attack anymore. With a tragic scream, its entire body exploded, with its poisonous blood flying around. "Haha, this is fun," said Yishuan as he laughed loudly. Currently, there were very few people who could go up against his physical body head-to-head. As a result, he didn't have many chances to utilize his full strength in his attacks. Yishuan defeated even an expert like the 8-star school leader with 2 punches alone. On the other side of the battlefield, the defeat of the furry zombies had become inevitable. Among those Transcendent Realm experts, 2 people among them possessed truly horrifying strength. One of them was a white-haired old man with a youthful appearance. He was wearing a lunar white long robe and seemed a little familiar. The other person was Li Feng. These 2 people had already killed more than 20 furry zombies in only a short amount of time. With the assistance of the other Overlord forces, the wave of zombies was finally suppressed. Yishuan went back to kill the zombie that the true martial school was going against. To him, these furry zombies didn't pose much of a threat now. Just as everyone worked together to kill the last furry zombie, the entire cave started rumbling. The entire floor surface was vibrating fanatically. From afar, everyone could see a transportation platform slowly rising deep within the cave. Upon the bright platform, 10 token plates were materialized in front of everyone's eyes. In an instant, everyone's gaze shifted towards those token plates. Those token plates are used to enter the ancient Baron's continent. Only with these token plates would one be able to access that continent. Only 10 token plates would materialize every 100 years. Someone among the martial warriors yelled, which caused everyone's gaze to be locked onto those token plates. They never expected such limitations to exist. This was truly beyond their expectations. That's right, said an old martial warrior, affirming this theory. In the ancient times, the ancient Barrens continent is the highest plane of existence. Every 100 years, only 10 outstanding people would have the chance to acquire the token plate and head to the ancient Barrens continent. However, one can bring 10 people along with one token plate. Everyone's hearts sank. They never expected that only 10 people would have the chance to head to the ancient Barrens continent every 100 years. Some people might not even be able to access it before dying. Not everyone could stand on this transportation platform. However, the temptation of breaking through the upper limits of their cultivation made them desire the token plates greatly. Who cares about those overlord forces? If it makes me stronger, I can even sever all ties with others. Who cares about their threats? This one is mine. At this instant, the Burning Heavens sect leader took action. He instantly presented his Burning Heavens door and unleashed a fire pillar. The fire pillar enveloped the token plate and entered his hands. Immediately after, the other overlord forces that brought their garrison martial instruments along did the same. Everyone could only watch the overlord forces do so. After all, the garrison martial instruments were too mighty. Even if the preparations weren't complete and the garrison martial instruments weren't in their full might, their might far surpasses a transcendent tool. What's more, most people here didn't possess a transcendent tool. Everyone could only watch 6 token plates being taken away in an instant. Fortunately, everyone was afraid of enraging the mass. As such, each faction only took 1 token plate. They didn't take all the token plates present. The 4 remaining token plates suddenly became incredibly alluring in everyone's eyes. Even Yi Shiwen was prepared to take action. Now he finally understood why Li Feng said he must acquire a token plate. Li Feng had already known about it beforehand. What identity does Li Feng have? How does he know so much? However, the doubts in his heart merely appeared for a while. He decided not to venture further into it. Now, there wasn't any time for him to contemplate it any longer. He didn't touch the first 6 token plates because of those garrison martial instruments. There was already a garrison martial instrument within his Tianyuan mirror. As such, he was aware of how mighty a garrison martial instrument was. There was no need for him to ask for more trouble. As such, he could only take 1 from the remaining 4 token plates. Without waiting for anyone to react, the white-haired old man with a youthful appearance and Li Feng both took action. They effortlessly snatched the remaining 2 token plates, and no one dared to refute them. After all, they were too strong. Their previous demeanor, when killing 10 zombies continuously, had shocked the crowd. Their efficiency in killing the zombies was far better than the overlord factions that brought a garrison martial instrument along. At this moment, Yi Shiwen took action as well. He didn't want to wait for the last token plate. When that time comes, the competition for the token plates would become too intense. With a swipe, a token plate landed in Yi Ziwen's hand. The texture of the token plate felt gentle, as it wasn't a physical object. It was materialized through some form of energy. The energy was extremely scarce, as only 10 token plates would be materialized every 100 years. Stop! Put the token plate down. Otherwise, it'll kill you. A sect master level stray transcendent realm expert rushed ahead, with his eyes filled with red. Under the influence of the token plate, he had already gone a little crazy. He couldn't care less about the repercussions any longer. For people that had achieved the strength of a sect master level, they had already reached the limits of their cultivation path. If nothing unexpected happens, they could only slowly await death, just like their preceding ancestors. However, now that the chance to ascend to the ancient Barrens continent was right in front of him, he would never let it go. For this opportunity, he had already descended into a mild madness. Compared to other people, Yi Shiwen seemed easier to deal with. Yi Shiwen sneered and glanced around his surroundings. All he saw were gazes filled with greed, staring on the token plate in his hand. Among the 9 people that had acquired the token plate, Yi Shiwen was the weakest. If they wanted to snatch a token plate away, Yi Shiwen would be the best target. You're seeking death. How dare you think of taking my stuff? Before the Transcendent Realm expert could release any other words of threats, Yi Shiwen had already lunged himself towards said expert. He clenched his fingers into a fist, and his aura was raised to the maximum. Golden divinites were instantly clad throughout his body. He was even mightier than when he was previously fighting against the 8-star school leader. His fist intent radiated a fist brilliance and came crashing down like a light pillar. That stray, transcendent realm cultivator immediately erected all his defense. The instant Yi Shiwen started his attack, the stray cultivator finally came back to his senses. Indeed, while he was the weakest among 9 of them, they were all peerlessly ruthless individuals. Previously, when the 8-star school leader was fighting against him, the school leader almost had no chance of retaliating and was virtually crippled. However, it was too late for him to make any appropriate reactions. Yi Zaiwen's fist was like a mountain, which crushed through all his defenses, reaching his body. Bang! He was immediately blown away by that punch. All his armor and defensive martial instruments were all shattered in an instant. He was secretly amazed by how strong Yi Zaiwen's physical body was. Before his emotions of amazement faded, Yi Zaiwen's next fist had already arrived. Boom! It was another punch that weighed as much as a mountain. He finally couldn't hold it in any longer, and blood was spewed out from his mouth. His body flew away once more. However, Yi Shiwen didn't let him go just like that. His shattering star fist came landing upon the stray cultivator continuously. Boom! 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 The stray cultivator was beaten to death by Yi Shiwen, and the Tianyuan mirror extracted his blood essence. Anyone else against me? Yi Shiwen stared at the crowd with an ice-cold gaze. Everyone was frightened and dare not plot for Yi Zaiwen's token plate any longer. They also felt pity for the sect leader-level stray cultivator, as he was acting a little too rashly. Although there were only 10 token plates now, 10 were produced every 100 years. Even if he lost the chance this time, he might acquire it next time. After all, the lifespan of a transcendent realm expert was too long. At the very least, he would have tens of chances. Even the Overlord factions dare not occupy all of the token plates. Otherwise, it would incite the rage of the public. Besides, 1 token allows 10 people to advance to the ancient Baron's continent. Even for an Overlord force, they might need a few tokens within the span of 1,000 years. After all, they didn't dare to bring all their transcendent realm experts to the ancient Baron's continent, unless they wanted to leave their foundations alone. As such, these stray cultivators had their chances as well. Seeing no one's objection, Yi Shiwen finally returned to the true martial schools group. Everyone in the school felt excited upon seeing Yi Shiwen acquiring a token plate. Chapter 8:21. Chapter 8:21. Parting just like what Yi Shiwen had expected, almost everyone placed their life on the line when fighting for the last token plate. Other than Yi Shiwen acquiring a token plate, no one else held any objections against the other 8 people taking it. However, other than those people, no one else had such a strong deterrence. The fight for the last token was too hectic. Every Overlord forces, true martial domain forces, various stray cultivators, and experts were all massacring each other solely for the last token plate. Yi Shiwen was merely spectating aside. No matter how intense the battle was, he didn't care about it at all. In truth, those people that had acquired the token plate had backed out from the commotion. If they were to join in, the public's rage would be incited. "Junior brother, let's leave," suggested Huang Wuji. Since the token plate had been acquired, their goal here had already been achieved. "All right." Yi Shiwen nodded. The people that were currently staying behind were all aiming for the last token plate. Besides, he didn't have the plans of going to the ancient Baron's continent right now. If all the remaining problems weren't settled ultimately, he wouldn't be able to depart safely. The true martial school still had too many enemies within the true martial domain. Currently, almost every member of the Yi family had already joined the true martial school. If the true martial school's problems weren't settled with, he wouldn't be able to leave. The departure of the true martial school's crowd did not attract much attention. With Yi Shiwen presiding over the true martial school, no one dared to snatch their token plate anymore. Everyone's attention were attracted to the last token plate. Upon leaving the cave, as they wanted to return to the true martial school, a voice resounded from afar. "All of you from the true martial school, please stay behind." Everyone turned their heads, and saw Li Feng calling to them. After a short while, Li Feng had already reached their side. "What other advice does Senior Li have?" asked Yi Shiwen as he stepped forward and cupped his hands. Li Feng merely smiled. "None. Am leaving for the ancient barrens soon. Only, am worried about leaving my daughter here alone, which is why I'm planning to bring her along with me." "Your daughter?" Everyone's eyes widened. They could tell how powerful Li Feng was, and were all clueless about who his daughter was. Everyone's expression went blank. "My child, wake up now!" Li Feng waved his hand, and a divine light surged out, instilling itself within Xiao Ya's body. "What did you do to her?" The fair maiden Peak's chief frowned and yelled at Li Feng. Although Li Feng was extremely strong, Xiao Ya was still her closed-door disciple, which she viewed as her successor. How could she tolerate someone hurting her? Yi Zaiwen's gaze turned sharp as well. In a cold tone, he said, "Senior Li, please explain clearly, what have you done?" Xiao Ya weighed a lot in his heart. Although they had been separated for a few years, the bond between them hadn't changed. Li Feng didn't react to the true martial school's rage. Instead, he merely smiled and was even enlightened. Before the situation advanced any further, a clear voice came out of Xiao Ya's voice. "Daddy!" Xiao Ya rushed into Li Feng's embrace and cried softly. "I thought that I wouldn't be able to see you anymore." Everyone in the true martial school were shocked. Are they father and daughter? Xiao Ya had never mentioned her father at all. Yi Shiwen had known of Xiao Ya the earliest, ever since she was still a child. And yet, she had never mentioned her father before. Besides, if she had a father, why would she be wandering around the secret territory? Seeing how everyone was still in disbelief, Li Feng couldn't help but explain, "Xiao Ya is my daughter. Only, her memories were sealed by me in the past, and she didn't know about my existence." Everyone came to a revelation. It was no wonder why Xiao Ya had never mentioned her father before. However, they got even more curious. For what reason did Li Feng seal his daughter's memories? Seeing how Li Feng and Xiao Ya had no intention of explaining, everyone felt it inappropriate to ask, as it was their family's internal matter. Originally, I didn't want Xiao Ya to start cultivating so early. And yet, my plan was destroyed by you, Brad. Li Feng looked at Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen smiled bitterly. In the end, it still became his problem. It was no wonder why Xiao Ya had no cultivation when they first met, despite her having an outstanding foundation and aptitude. Yi Shiwen could only smile bitterly, while the fair maiden Peak's chief was lost in words. She had spent so much effort raising Liya, intending to make Liya her successor. And yet, Liya's father wanted to bring her to the ancient barrens. The fair maiden Peak's chief's plan on making her a successor had been destroyed. However, she couldn't say anything now. After all, compared to her, Liya's father, Li Feng was much stronger. At the very least, she couldn't see through Li Feng's cultivation. Besides, they were going to the ancient barrens, which was better for Li Ya's development than the true martial domain. "Forget it. This is your fate." Li Feng let out a sigh and cupped his hands. "Xiao Ya had given many troubles to all of you when she was together with your true martial school. I thank all of you for that." Xiao Ya's head came out from Li Feng's embrace. She looked at Yi Shiwen and the fair maiden Peak's chief with reluctance. "Big brother Yi Master." Although her memories were awakened, the two of them had engraved an unerasable mark in her life. "Follow your father. Who knows, I might go to the ancient barrens as well," said the fair maiden Peak's chief. She was currently still in her youthful years. If she didn't go to the ancient barrens, it might become the regret of her life. "When that time comes, we might be able to meet each other once more." Hearing what her master said, Xiao Ya felt a little reassured. She looked at Yi Shiwen once more and said, "Big brother Yi, how about we leave together?" "It's fine. I still have matters I'd like to settle before going to the ancient barrens, which I don't know how long it would take. Just leave first. After this, if fate allows it, we would meet each other once more." Yi Shiwen shook his head. He knew how much safer it would be to go to the ancient barrens together with Li Feng. However, a martial warrior's path was destined to be lonely. If he required others' protection, it served no purpose for him to go to the ancient barrens continent. Upon hearing Yi Zaiwen's words, Xiao Ya couldn't hold in her tears anymore. Her glittering tears continuously flowed from her eyes and fell to the ground. All right, silly girl. You'll meet him again in the future. This kid isn't an unambitious person. In the future, find him after hearing about his name. Li Feng had no choice but to comfort her. His daughter was the only worry of his heart and the only thing he cared about. Southern Dipper, are you giving up on all your foundations here and going to the ancient barrens? An old and cold voice resounded from afar. It was the lunar white-colored old man clad in a long robe. Currently, he was treading by stepping on lights. What about it, Big Dipper? Do you want to fight against me here? Li Feng snorted and strode forward. He hid Xiaoyu behind him in a secretive manner. Do you think I'm afraid of you? I just never expected such a great hero like you to give up on your foundations and transcend to the ancient Baron's continent, said the old man, Big Dipper, in a plain manner. He then glanced at Xiaoyu, who was hidden behind Li Feng. Foundations? What foundations? Haha, I was just too short-sighted last time. In the end, this kid's vision is much broader than mine. Li Feng turned to look at Yishuan. The establishments that I had established for half of my life amounted to nothing in the end. Everything is fate. Since fate forbids me to do so, I shall not go against it. Yishuan was confused. What does it have to do with me? If you're willing to let go of all your establishment and dissolve the Southern Dipper, I won't hold you accountable for what you did in the past, said the old man Big Dipper. Even if your plan succeeded, it's impossible for the native clan to revive. They had already perished since long ago. Even with all your remaining descendants of the native clan, it's impossible to revive the native clan. Everyone in the true martial school was shocked, as they had acquired shocking information that might shock even the entire world. Native clan, remaining descendants. Li Feng was of the native clan. In other words, Xiaoyu might be from the native clan as well. Everyone couldn't believe it, as they couldn't tell previously. As for the Fair Maiden Peak's chief, she didn't think much about it. No matter which race Xiaoyu was still her disciple. That was all there was to it. Only Yishuan didn't mind it at all. No matter what, Xiao Ya's position within his heart wouldn't change. He only came to a revelation. All the previous, unexplainable matters now had a suitable explanation, including the reason for Xiao Ya's slow growth rate. After so many years, she matured only a little. There was her absurd talent as well. She could be of the native clan, although it wasn't clear which native clan she was from. Everything was now explainable. This kid's right. There aren't any distinctions between justice and evil. It's merely two races fighting for space of survival. After seeing through it, everything became negligible now, said Li Feng. I have already dispersed the Southern Dipper. It'll also bring the remaining native clan members to the ancient Baron's continent. There's no need for you to worry about it. That's great, said the old man Big Dipper. However, I want the token plate in your possession. After all, one token plate doesn't suffice in bringing away all the native clan members, said Li Feng. All right, no problem. The old man Big Dipper's response was very straightforward, without any hints of delay. Big Dipper, Southern Dipper. Yishuan suddenly remembered the two huge groups beneath the starry skies. Even he was a member of the Big Dipper. If that's the case, the two people in front of me are the Big Dipper Constellation Emperor and the Southern Dipper Constellation Emperor. Seeing Yi Zaiwen's stunned look, the old man Big Dipper finally said, Do you understand now? You still think he's a good person? Chapter 822. Chapter 822. Before parting with each other, Yishuan certainly didn't regard Li Feng as a good person. However, when he realized that Li Feng was the Southern Dipper's head, Southern Dipper Constellation Emperor, he was still extremely baffled. He already felt numb about that old man being the Big Dipper Constellation Emperor. Although he had joined the Big Dipper, he wasn't concerned about their actions. After all, the Big Dipper's control over their members was lax. Other than branding the Southern Dipper as their mortal enemies, there weren't any other rules. Originally, I planned to nurture you as the next-in-line Big Dipper Constellation Emperor. I never expected you to be going to the Ancient Barons. Sigh, what a pity, said the Big Dipper Constellation Emperor as he let out a sigh. Thank you for taking care of me all this while. said Yi Shiwen as he cupped his hands. Although he didn't have many ties with the Big Dipper, joining the Big Dipper and becoming the Constellation Lord already implied that he was being cared for. It's nothing. You're able to reach your current state because of your efforts, said the Big Dipper Constellation Emperor as he let out a sigh. Enough, old man. Stop blabbering. Give me the token plate, said Li Feng with an annoyed expression. It's been thousands of years, and you're still acting like this. The Big Dipper Constellation Emperor shook his head and let out a laugh. After being opponents for so many years, they truly understood each other well. He waved his hand, and the token plate fell into Li Feng's hands. After confirming that the token plate was real, Li Feng said, "Then, let us meet again in the future." "Big brother Yi, you must come to find me," said Xiaoyu all of a sudden. "I will. If fate allows it, we will meet each other again." Yi Shiwen smiled and nodded. He was feeling a sense of reluctance as well. However, after thinking about how they would meet each other in the Ancient Barrens, he suddenly felt better. As soon as Yi Shiwen finished speaking, Li Feng had already transformed into a stream of light, disappearing in the skies together with Xiaoyu. "Since he's left, I won't be remaining here any longer," said the Big Dipper Constellation Emperor. "Senior, do you want to ascend to the Ancient Barrens together with me?" asked Yi Shiwen. Since one token allowed 10 people to come along, Yi Shiwen had sufficient slots for the Big Dipper to go along. "No need, I'm already old. I want to remain in my hometown and have no intentions of going anywhere else," said the Big Dipper Constellation Emperor as he let out a sigh. Compared to Li Feng, he wasn't as ambitious. He had never thought of displaying his might in the Ancient Barrens continent. "Then, this junior has a request." Yi Shiwen cupped his hands and bowed to him. "Speak." The Big Dipper Constellation Emperor's eyes narrowed with his smile. If it were any other person, he would have left long ago. As a Big Dipper Constellation Emperor, he didn't even put the sect leaders of the Overlord factions in high regard. After all, he wasn't someone that would casually grant one's request. However, Yi Shiwen was different. He viewed Yi Shiwen in high regard. Besides, Yi Shiwen was their Big Dipper Star Lord. Naturally, Yi Ziwen's identity and strength were different. "Please take care of the true martial school if you find it convenient," said Yi Shiwen. No matter what, the true martial school was the biggest source of his worries. However, if the Big Dipper Constellation Emperor could take care of the true martial school, many burdens of his would be lifted. Hearing how Yi Shiwen was still worrying about them even until now, everyone in the true martial school felt a warmth in their hearts. Ultimately, Yi Shiwen was still from their true martial school. "Ah, you're using me as a bodyguard? That's fine. Since I have nothing to do, they'll take care of whatever I'm capable of taking care of," said the Big Dipper Constellation Emperor. Without his mortal enemy, the Southern Dipper, causing a ruckus, he suddenly had nothing to do anymore. "Thank you, Senior." Yi Shiwen and the people from the true martial school bowed and thanked the Big Dipper. The Big Dipper Constellation Emperor did not remain for any further and left the area. As for the True Martial School's members, they returned to the True Martial School. Shortly after returning to the True Martial School, the entire True Martial domain had gone crazy, as the myths regarding the Ancient Barrens continent were true. Despite there being only 10 token plates every 100 years, every token plate allows 10 people's ascension. In other words, 100 people would have the chance to reach the Ancient Barrens every 100 years. Such information caused everyone to be attracted to it. In truth, the number of Transcendent Realm experts beneath the starry skies only amounted to more than 1,000, including those that were in seclusion and were slumbering. Even if all of them were to come out, it would merely require 10 batches of token plates, which would only amount to 1,000 years. They had already waited for countless years. 1,000 years was nothing at all. They had lots of chances. As soon as such information was spread around, an uproar occurred. Very quickly, the news of the last token plate finally had its owner. It fell into the hands of an old stray cultivator in the Transcendent Realm first-level peak. However, after acquiring the last token plate, he had disappeared very quickly. Everyone else knew the reason as well. After all, he wasn't as strong as the others that held the token plates. Besides, Even Yi Shiwen had the true martial school to back him. As a stray cultivator, he had no one to back him up, which prevented him from appearing. After all, many Overlord-level forces didn't obtain a token plate. As such, the stray cultivator had to go into hiding. 10 years passed in an instant. Other than Yi Shiwen, all other owners of the token plates had already passed through the teleportation platform, heading to the ancient Baron's continent. All the Overlord forces' interest in the true martial domain decreased significantly. Since they were aware that the pathway would be opened every 100 years, they wouldn't have any chances during the next few decades. The extraterrestrial overlords started retracting from the true martial domain. After 100 years passed, they could head to Dao Kong Mountain. They didn't have to dispatch large batches of experts to invade the true martial domain anymore. After all, with so many experts outside, their sect would face unprecedented danger. It was considered nothing when everyone invaded the true martial domain. However, now that the Overlord forces started retreating, everyone started panicking. All of them started returning to their sect one after another. It was where their foundations lied after all. No one held the strength sufficient of governing over two worlds. As the last extraterrestrial Overlord retreated from the true martial domain, before the various forces from the true martial domain could cheer, the true martial school made a new move. They dispatched a large number of troops. The southern wilderness fire cloud cave was thoroughly annihilated within a month. Equipped with the true martial stone sword, Yi Shiwen alone had killed 13 transcendent realm experts and even killed the Fire Cloud Cave's cave lord. The Fire Cloud Cave that had been dominating the southern wilderness for years had been destroyed. As for the remaining disciples that surrendered, they were all accepted as the disciples of the Fire Cloud Hall, commanded by the 2 remaining transcendent realm experts of the Fire Cloud Cave. With their victorious might, the other forces of the southern wilderness, like the Hunter Barbarians' cave, surrendered. After dealing with the southern wilderness, the true martial domain's troops started attacking the 5 regions and 4 wilderness experts. Equipped with the true martial stone sword, Yi Shiwen was just like an unparalleled killer. No one could fight against him in the true martial domain. After another 30 years, every part of the true martial domain was slowly calming down, and the true martial school became the ruler of the true martial domain. Along with all the transcendent realm experts that surrendered, the true martial school now had more than 70 transcendent realm experts. Although not all of them were loyal to the true martial school, it was still a good start. As long as the true martial school maintains its current strength, no one would think of leaving the true martial school. Following the growth of the next generation, the true martial school would become stronger. Besides, they had an unparalleled killer like Yi Shiwen around, who was undefeatable beneath the starry skies. No one would dare to have such thoughts. The true martial school's reputation was renowned throughout the world as they become an overlord force beneath the starry skies. Also, the true martial school's foundations accumulated through all the past years had finally come into use. Based on strength alone, they weren't inferior compared to the overlord forces any longer. As for Yi Shiwen, he had become a legend throughout the true martial school. In the true martial school, there was a mountain with the name Yi Peak. Inside, every member of the Yi family was living there. 20 years ago, Yi Shiwen had brought his family over from the Yi Yuan sect. Because of Yi Shiwen, the Yi family became a legendary family of the true martial school, and they flourished more and more. In Yi Zaiwen's opinion, his family would be safer in the true martial school. Besides, their future potential for development would also be much more enormous. With all the foundations and wealth that he left behind, the Yi family would undoubtedly grow to become one of the true martial school's huge families. With this, he would be able to leave safely. Now that the true martial school had become an overlord force, unless they encountered someone like the Star Beast Avatar, the possibility of them declining would be minimal. Above a tall tree within a forest in the Yi Peak, a teenager clad in a long green robe was lying by a tree branch. The wind around him blew softly, blowing his hair intertwined with the color of black and white. It was Yi Shiwen. During the past decades of war, he participated in them when equipped with the true martial stone sword. His strength was already strong to begin with. Along with the true martial stone sword, he was naturally invincible and won every single battle. However, the true martial stone sword was indeed a demonic sword. During the past few decades, it consumed more than 3,000 years of his lifespan. It was no wonder why the supreme school leader quickly secluded himself after using it once. After continuously using it, his youth vigor had long gone, turning into an elderly instead. Naturally, the consumption of his vital energy and blood would be much more significant. He didn't mind losing 3,000 years of lifespan. After all, the Star Beast Avatar's lifespan was already incredibly long to begin with. Even without those 3,000 years, it wouldn't affect it at all. The main problem was the consumption of his vital energy and blood. After he had just finished fighting the war, he looked like an old man that was at death's door. It almost scared his parents to death. Luckily, with his conditioning through all the true martial school medicines used to replenish vital energy and blood, he finally recovered slowly. Half of his hair being white was the aftermath of such an incident. Chapter 8:23. Chapter 8:23. Stunning prodigies of every domains. This was also due to how much more vigorous the Star Beast Avatar's vital energy and blood were than a regular expert. If it were any other ordinary person, the past few decades of warfare would consume their vital energy dry, resulting in death. During the past 30 years, Yi Shiwen had slowly taken care of the matters he intended to take care of. 10 years ago, the wolf cub had successfully ascended the transcendent realm. When it ascended the transcendent realm, people from the Thousand Demon Beasts Island came and brought it away. According to them, the wolf cub would go to the ancient Baron's continent through the Thousand Demon Beasts Island. After more than 100 years of conditioning, the Thousand Demon Beasts Island had recovered a fair amount of their strength and weren't willing to remain beneath the starry skies any longer. Yi Shiwen didn't mind it. After all, as long as he reached the ancient Baron's continent, they would eventually meet each other once more. Above the Yi Peak, light shone everywhere. The moonlight shone through the tree leaves, being separated into numerous rays of light. They shone on Yi Xiwen's body, reflecting a silver shade on his white hair. "It's time to leave," said Yi Shiwen. "Ancient Baron's continent and the ancient Phoenix domain." Until now, Yi Shiwen still remembered the time when Hua Menghan was brought away. At that time, he was being beaten into a state of humiliation. Even until now, Yi Shiwen still had no confidence in winning Fengling. There were various massive forces within the ancient Baron's continent which had their world. Every single colossal force had its independent world. For example, the Demon Domain, the Beast Domain, the Ancient Phoenix Domain, the Dragon Island. It contained all kinds of worlds like these. Even within the Ancient Barons, the Ancient Phoenix Domain was a massive force with a high reputation. They were still an unimaginable existence for Yi Shiwen. Tonight was his departing ceremony. Initially, he planned on leaving the next morning. However, he suddenly decided to leave now. He really couldn't handle the sadness of separation with his loved ones forever, even if it weren't considered parting forever. However, after leaving for the ancient Baron's continent, he didn't know if he could ever come back. Even if he could, he didn't know how long it would take. This departure might be a departure of life and death. Yi Shiwen sighed. He expanded the enormous wings behind him and flew towards the moon, disappearing by the skies. Within the vast void, a city appeared in front of Yi Shiwen. It had been a year. Ever since he entered the transportation platform, a whole year had passed. It was different from what he had imagined. Initially, he expected himself to be transported directly to the ancient Baron's continent. However, in truth, that wasn't the case. Instead, he was directly transformed into a void. This was an ancient road that had been deserted since long ago. It was no wonder why this was called a pathway. According to myths, there exist many kinds of similar pathways. The roots of the world tree created every single one of them. These roots lead to different domains. This place could almost be called uninhabited, as everywhere around him were barrens. After walking for an entire year, Yi Shiwen finally saw the city floating within the void. Maybe, in the past, this pathway might have still been walkable and serves as the central turning point. However, it was now merely a land full of barrens. Above the city, Yi Shiwen could still vaguely see the old past. There were sites of people's activity. There was an abundance of inns, stalls, living places, and many others. However, for whatever reason, everyone had retreated from here. There are many kinds of cities like this within all the pathways. We barely just enter the main road, right? Said Yimo. This was still a better condition one. If it were within the pathway between the demon domain and the ancient Baron's continent, it would most likely be caught up in warfare, resulting in havoc. Although this place is uninhabited, it saves us quite an amount of troubles. Indeed. Yishua nodded. However, he was still feeling frustrated. This was much more annoying than he had imagined. After journeying for an entire year, he finally saw one such city. It seemed like he still had a long journey ahead. Initially, not everyone could go to the ancient Baron's continent. Only the elites within 100 years could go there. In truth, this ancient road was considered a form of training for them. Only it had been too long since someone hadn't passed by here. Tens of thousands of years might have passed, or even hundreds of thousands of years had passed. As such, the entire place was uninhabited. Ever since he had encountered the abandoned city, Yi Shiwen would discover another city once every 10 or 20 days. The cities would either be dilapidated or desolated. However, there weren't any population present without any exceptions, which made it seem too desolate. Another year passed. Finally, Yi Shiwen could vaguely see an exceptionally huge closed door in front of his eyes. Rather than calling it a city gate, it would be better to call it a colossal city. This city was overly populated. Just by roughly looking at it, the population would amount to 10 million people. No matter where it was, this place was worthy of being called a colossal city. In front of the city gate, Yi Shiwen could vaguely see dozens of people quietly waiting outside of the gate. Yi Shiwen, after you pass this gate, you'll enter the ancient Baron's continent. After that, you will truly enter the ancient Baron's continent, where an abundance of experts gathers. Said Yimo, do you see those people? They're the same as you. They're all prodigies that came from all sorts of worlds. A city gate would usually accept prodigies that came from dozens of worlds. Now they're all present. After the closed gate opens, if they're outstanding enough, they might even attract the attention of the sects within the ancient Baron's continent, and even be recruited. Dozens of worlds. Yi Shiwen finally had an understanding of there being an abundance of experts within the ancient Baron's continent. With only this closed gate alone, there might be experts from dozens of worlds that might be accepted. With how many city doors there were, including all the local prodigies from the ancient Baron's continent, this implied that the number of prodigies within the ancient Baron's continent amounted to an entire pile of sands, with each prodigy being a single sand particle. It was practically impossible to identify the number of prodigies. Why do I feel much more relaxed? Even the suppression in my cultivation felt much less ever since I came here, asked Yi Shiwen with an odd feeling. That's a great question. The thing is, the cultivation suppression of the ancient Baron's continent is extremely little. It's 10 times laxer compared to the true martial domain. As such, if the prodigies of your domain cultivated in the ancient Baron's continent, it would be as easy as eating and drinking. As such, the local sects of the ancient Baron's continent would mostly snatch for the prodigies that originated from other worlds. Explained Yimo, this was why there was such an abundance of prodigies and experts within the ancient Baron's continent. This was one of the reasons why the other domains, like the demon domain, the beast domain, and the ancient phoenix domain, weren't able to oppress the ancient Baron's continent. Yi Shiwen nodded and came to a revelation. He understood what Yimo meant. It was just like someone who was used to living in a world with 10 times the Earth's gravity, suddenly arriving at the Earth itself. That person would instantly become a Superman. Only, he never expected the ancient Baron's continent's environment to be so lax to this extent. Other domains might not have their strength suppressed by the transcendent realm first level, like your true martial domain. However, in truth, cultivating there wasn't as simple as cultivating in the ancient Baron's continent. Besides, their domain's connections with the ancient Baron's continent had never been cut off before. As a result, They would usually send their outstanding disciples in the half-step transcendent realm or the transcendent realm to the ancient Barrens continent. What's more, they weren't afraid of their sect's disciples joining another sect within the ancient Barrens continent. After all, these were two completely different levels, said Yemo. If one of their sect's disciples could join a huge overlord sect within the ancient Barrens continent and become a higher-up within, their sect's disciples would, in turn, be able to take care of their original sect. Such an act was beneficial for both sides. Yishuan understood what Yemo meant. In other words, the ancient Barrens was a holy land for prodigies, where numerous experts dwelled within. Initially, Yishuan didn't think of anything impressive within the ancient Barrens continent. Now that he finally saw it, he truly felt that the ancient Barrens had lived up to its name. Within Yi Zaiwen's group, almost all of them were experts in the Transcendent Realm first level. Originally, Yi Zaiwen's cultivation was sufficient for him to be a top-notch expert beneath the starry skies, being invincible no matter where he was. Other than Li Feng and a limited number of experts, no one else could defeat Yishuan. However, he wasn't outstanding anymore within this group of people. He was just considered normal. Some of the people present were even in the Transcendent Realm first-level peak. Every single one of them was a powerful prodigy. If they managed to cultivate to such a state, even in their original world, cultivating would be extremely simple upon reaching the ancient Barrens continent. At the very least, it was like this during the Transcendent Realm. Their previous experiences would become their best foundation in the future. Of course, this merely referred to cultivation alone. If combat prowess was included, Yishuan had the confidence of defeating them using the Star Beast avatar. Seeing Yishuan walking over, the dozens of people merely raised their eyelids and did not give any reactions. Every single one of them was peerless prodigies and were extremely talented within their domains. Although Yi Zaiwen's cultivation was decent, it was merely decent. It wasn't sufficient to make them have any reactions. It was said that there were even people in the Transcendent Realm second level and third level present in the past. Yishuan was merely in the Transcendent Realm first level peak, which was considered the expected standard. Nothing was intriguing at all. You must have just arrived here, right? A clear voice resounded from afar. Yishuan looked at the voice source and saw a woman that seemed to be in her 17 or 18. She wore a watercolored long robe, and her skin was snow white. Her facial structures were considered delicate. Although she wasn't an extreme beauty, she was still regarded as beautiful. Unfortunately, looks don't matter for martial warriors. Her strength was decent as well, as she had already reached the half-step transcendent late realm. She had a firm foundation as well. With only a little more, she would ascend the transcendent realm. Among all those that Yishuan knew, only Mu Xingjie was comparable to her. Chapter 824. Chapter 824, Scram. Huang Wuji had already ascended to the transcendent realm. Naturally, they were not befitted to make a comparison. However, Mu Xingjie could only be compared to Huang Wuji before he had ascended to the transcended realm. The scarce prodigies within the true martial school could be seen anywhere here. It was conceivable how shocked Yishuan was. Besides, this girl was a rock-bottom existence among these groups of experts. That's right. Yishuan nodded. I just arrived here as well. She gave a beautiful smile. My name is Shen Yinmei. You can call me Yinmei. I'm a Navy Tide sect's disciple, from the Navy Tide domain. This woman had an extrovert personality. When they had just met each other, she had already leaked information about her one after another. Yishuan. I'm from the True Martial Domain's True Martial School. Seeing how straightforward she was, Yishuan did the same. True Martial Domain? Shen Yinmei frowned her lovely brows, obviously thinking about where the True Martial Domain was from. After all, they originated from a different world from Yishuan. True Martial Domain and all the other domains beneath the Starry Skies connection had been cut off from the ancient Barrens continent for countless years. As such, other places, including the ancient Barrens continent, wouldn't have heard about them. However, the other domains still had ties with the ancient Barrens continent. She was a little confused upon hearing such a foreign name like the True Martial Domain. It's a small domain. It's normal for you not to know about it, said Yi Shiwen with a smile. He could tell that this Shin Yinmei was a little pure and didn't have a plotting mind. As such, Yi Shiwen was willing to communicate with her. All right. Shin Yinmei pouted. She said, May I ask which sect are you planning on joining? I heard that the Unparalleled Palace and the Crimson Peak Villa are currently recruiting, said Shin Yinmei. There were various sects nearby. However, the competition here was too intense. As a result, only 2 sects would be allowed to recruit prodigies after a certain amount of time. As for what kind of prodigies they were able to recruit, it was based solely on luck. Of course, some vast sects even sent some people to various domains, observing the prodigies within other domains. If anyone caught their attention, they would bring the prodigies away. If the true martial domain's ties weren't cut off from the outside world for such a long time, some sects might have noticed him and brought him away. Of course, the sects that had the capabilities of dispatching people to other domains were the equivalent of the enormous forces within the true martial domain. Ordinary small sects didn't possess such capabilities. Neither. I'm not planning on joining any sections. I plan to venture alone for the meantime, said Yi Shiwen. Of course, this was merely an excuse. The true reason was that he intended to head straight towards Mountain Chi and figure out the situation of his own identity. Although he didn't know where Mountain Chi was, he would head to Mountain Chi upon entering the ancient Baron's continent. You aren't planning on joining a sect? That's understandable. Even though the Unparalleled Palace and the Crimson Peak Villa were decent, you've already ascended to the Transcendent Realm long ago. You might even be able to join a better sect, said Shin Yinmei. From her perspective, Yi Shiwen chose neither of them because he had already chosen other sections. This wasn't illegal as well. In truth, this was considered extremely normal. Everyone had the sects which they intended to join. The sects were aware of these as well, and dare not stop the prodigies from doing so. Such matters happened in the past as well. A sect wanted to forcefully recruit an extreme prodigy into their sect, which enraged the extreme prodigy. In the end, the prodigy was being hunted down by said sect. After 1,000 years, when the prodigy had ascended to the supreme realm, he returned to wipe out the entire sect. Since then, no sect dared to forcefully recruit any prodigies any longer. After all, if the prodigies weren't dead, a great calamity might befall upon the sections. When will this door open? Asked Yi Shiwen. When the people of the Unparalleled Palace and the Crimson Peak Villa arrives, it should open, said Shin Yinmei with a beautiful smile. They even plan to use this to decrease our prestige. Yi Shiwen smiled. He was no stranger to such methods. Such techniques wouldn't be used on ordinary people, as they naturally possessed a sense of fear for the strong sections. However, for some extremely strong prodigies, such wasn't the case at all. Although they weren't as paramount of a figure as Yi Shiwen was in their sect, they were still outstanding people within their peers. People like these had their prestige, as they were practically uncontested among their peers, which allowed them to act pridefully. The sects here intended to remind them about what kind of place this was. This wasn't the small little domain which they originated from. Just as Shin Yinmei finished speaking, 2 groups of around 20 people flew here from the sky. The side that wore apricot-color long robes were the Unparalleled Palace's disciples, while the other side that wore crimson-red robes were all the disciples of the Crimson Peak Villa. Under the guidance of their respective, unfathomable elders, they descended in front of the crowd. Various prodigies that were indifferent to the matters happening around them widened their eyes one after another. After all, most of them might be joining these 2 sections. Although there were many prodigies here, no one was strong enough to ignore these 2 sections. Everyone, you're all experts from your respective domains. I believe that your sect seniors had already informed and warned you about it before you left, which is why I'm not going to emphasize the subject. Those that want to join our sects, you're allowed to register now, said the Unparalleled Palace's elder. He was a white-haired old man with a youthful appearance. However, glitter was flickering within his eyes. His vital energy and blood were much vigorous than youth. His cultivation was at an unimaginable height. The Unparalleled Palace's experts and the Crimson Peak Villa's experts both stood in 2 different areas. The various prodigies also registered at the place which they had previously chosen. Shen Yimei had also left Yi Shiwen behind and strode towards the direction of the unparalleled palace. Yi Shiwen glanced at the unparalleled palace and the Crimson Peak Villa. Although these two sects weren't considered strong within the ancient Barons' continent, they far surpassed the true martial school. Yi Shiwen couldn't see through either of the leading elders as well. However, these elders had yet to escape the transcendent realm yet. They should be considered as extremely advanced cultivators among the transcendent realm. Behind them were the disciples in duty. They were all transcendent realm experts as well. Although they were also in the transcendent realm first level, they were considered the younger generation, not the older generation. Such foundations made the true martial school utterly in shame, as they could only allow Huang Wuji alone to ascend to the transcendent realm. On the ancient Barons' continent, it was effortless to cultivate, especially when compared to Yi Ziwen's previous environment. Yi Shiwen could feel his main body within the Tianyuan mirror on the verge of ascending to the half-step transcendent intermediate realm. When that time comes, he would be comparable to a transcendent realm first-level expert. He felt like a chain that weighed hundreds of pounds was lifted from his body, which made his entire body relaxed. At this time, it was best for a breakthrough in a safe place. When his main body also ascends to the transcendent realm, his security would undoubtedly improve significantly. From Yi-Mo, Yi Shiwen understood that although transcendent realm experts weren't considered as top-notch experts within the ancient Barons' continent, they entered the ranks of an expert. Great sages might only be considered as ordinary people within the ancient Barons' continent. As for the sage realm, only miners and slaves would have such cultivation. Such was the difference. After ascending to the transcendent realm, he would be considered to have some reputation. No one would dare to force him anymore. Very soon, everyone else had finished selecting their desired sections. Only Yi Shiwen remained along in the middle, choosing neither of the two sections. The people from both sects stared at Yi Shiwen. Previously, some individuals didn't choose any sects present. Such people were incredibly talented and were already in the transcendent realm 5th level or 6th level upon making an appearance. In fact, there were even people with higher cultivations. The sects were naturally aware that they had no qualifications to recruit them. However, no matter what, Yi Shiwen was merely in the transcendent realm 1st level peak. Although his cultivation was only considered decent, it wasn't outstanding either. People who had cultivation like him were widespread. And yet, he dared to choose neither of them. Who is this person? Does he think of himself as some top prodigy? He's merely in the transcendent realm 1st level. Why is he acting so arrogant? I agree. He truly thinks that he is someone special. What a fool. Does he think that those huge overlord forces would accept him when he reaches the inner continent? Such naiveness. In the ancient Barons' continent, the number of prodigies present would only amount to much more than wherever his previous domain is. Who does he think he is? Everyone's discussions fell into the ears of Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen merely shut his eyes and didn't care much about it. The discussion of these people wouldn't affect his emotions at all. Kid, let me give you a chance. Our elder places you in high regard. As long as you're willing to join our unparalleled palace, you'll become our outer disciple. You won't have to start from being a common disciple. Suddenly, a handsome teenager from the unparalleled palace walked out. He stood in front of Yi Shiwen and spoke while looking down on Yi Shiwen. Sorry, but I'm not interested in joining any sects at the moment. Yi Shiwen frowned. This person's tone made him uncomfortable. Brat, you're seeking trouble for yourself, the teenager snorted. Do you think that this place is still your small little domain? This is the ancient Barons' continent. No matter how exceptional you are, you better know your place here. The martial arts you learned from your small little domain is merely a laughable joke. Today, I, Ko Wendong, shall teach you how not to act so pridefully and loftily. Upon hearing his words, Yi Shiwen frowned. He coldly spitted out a word. Scram. Fine. You're truly seeking your death. Do you truly think that you're so strong, being a transcendent realm 1st level? Let me tell you, among those in the same realm as you, your combat prowess would only be a joke. Ko Wendong was enraged and continuously snorted. His transcendent realm, first-level aura, started surging throughout his body. Chapter 8:25. Chapter 8:25. Defeat with one high. These sects dare not provoke a prodigy in the transcendent realm 5th or 6th level upon entering here. Without making things hard for each other, there wouldn't be any form of conflict between them. However, they didn't regard Yi Shiwen, someone among the transcendent realm first-level peak, among prodigy's ranks. Even if he were a prodigy, he would be considered an ordinary prodigy. While such people might be outstanding characters which stood upon the peak of strength within the true martial school, they were far too typical in the ancient Barrens continent. The cultivating environment was much laxer. Even those disciples that followed their sect's elders had such cultivation as well. While these people might experience a drastic increase in cultivation, it was impossible to reach a state where the entire sect would be threatened. This was mostly the case for people like Yi Shiwen, who originated from other small domains. None of the sects held him in high regard here. It was just like how the huge forces cultivators act when facing the stray cultivators in the true martial domain. In terms of cultivation and grades of martial arts, these sects were far superior to those that originated from other small domains. This was a benefit that people from the small domains had no chance of enjoying. As such, even though they were both in the transcendent realm first-level peak, Ko Wendong had the confidence to deal with Yi Shiwen easily. He intended to teach a lesson to this ignorant brat from some smaller domains and educate Yi Shiwen about how weak he was. He intended to diminish Yi Ziwen's pride, as Yi Shiwen was considered nothing here. Ko Wendong's aura became stronger and stronger. His transcendent realm first-level peak's strength wasn't artificial at all, and even Yi Shiwen was amazed. Even Huang Wuji's talents wouldn't net him such strength. Without any doubt, the cultivation environment of the ancient Barrens continent was so much laxer compared to the true martial domain. Unparalleled space-shattering palm. Ko Wendong's dense qi surged out from his body, and he instantly attacked Yi Shiwen. His figure burst forward, and his hand traversed through space, immediately reaching Yi Ziwen's front. The spiritual energies of the world were faintly intertwined, which released a horrifying might. The expressions of all the spectating prodigy disciples that originated from other smaller domains changed. While the cultivation environment of the ancient Barrens continent was much laxer compared to their original world, the laws here were much more complicated by tenfolds or even hundredfolds. While transcendent realm experts could easily shatter space within their original domain, it was practically impossible within the ancient Barrens continent. It was also tough to intertwine their martial arts together with this place's spiritual qi. And yet, Ko Wendong had the capabilities of doing so, which made their expressions change. It was conceivable that Ko Wendong was merely considered normal among all the unparalleled palace disciples present. He was considered no one outstanding, and yet even he had such strengths. This ancient Barrens continent was truly amazing. However, some lofty prodigies didn't care much about this Ko Wendong. Even if he was stronger than them, they felt that Ko Wendong merely had the advantage of being here earlier than them. After they learned the martial arts of the ancient Barrens continent, and their cultivations experience a drastic increase, this awe-inspiring Ko Wendong would be considered nothing. Yi Shiwen could only feel a wave of killing intent rushing towards him. Ko Wendong's entire face was red, and he was exceedingly enraged. With his first attack, he was already attempting to deal a killing blow to Yi Shiwen. After all, prodigies like him would appear in abundance every once in a while. Yi Shiwen was such an insignificant character. Yi Shiwen, be careful. Seeing Ko Wendong's surging aura, Ko Yinmei quickly reminded Yi Shiwen. This caused her surrounding unparalleled palace seniors to look at her in rebuke. Why are you supporting an outsider instead of someone from your sect? Even though Shun Yinmei hadn't joined the unparalleled palace yet, the disciples of the unparalleled palace regarded her as one of their members. Seeing how pretty Shun Yinmei was and how pure-minded she was, no one decided to lecture her for it. Such was the treatment any beauties would receive, no matter where they were. It's too late. Ko Wendong snorted upon hearing Shun Yamiai's words. His attacking speed got even faster, and a surge of energy was instantly blasted out, shooting itself towards Yi Zaiwen's direction. The vibration of the energy made even the air burn fanatically. When his palm reached Yi Zaiwen's front, Yi Shiwen finally moved. There wasn't any extravagant action. His attack appeared slow at first glance, but it was not sluggish. Just as he raised his hand, his fist already went up against Ko Wendong's attack. Boom! A low explosive sound resounded in the sky. The sound was so low in tone, everyone felt an ear-piercing sensation. The energy brought along by the unparalleled sky-shattering palm was also dissipated in an instant, turning into ripples visible to the naked eye, which started spreading around. What? Ko Wendong's eyes widened. He never expected the attack he had prepared beforehand to be ineffective, being blocked by such a simple fist. He could even feel that Yi Shiwen didn't even use any form of qi. With Yi Zaiwen's physique alone, he managed to block Ko Wendong's attack. How is this possible? Is he a cultivator that cultivates the toughness of his physique? Before he had the time to think about it, Yi Zaiwen's counterattack instantly arrived. An ethereal palm traversed through space and landed on Ko Wendong's chest with lightning speed. Ko Wendong's protective aura wasn't able to withstand the attack. It was penetrated instantly. The palm landed on his chest. Boom! A deep voice of their physical body clashing resounded, and Ko Wendong flew outwards. After being knocked back for more than 10 feet, he finally came to a halt. Everyone was stunned. They never expected the Ko Wendong, who was still surging with his aura, to be trounced. He was just like a fly that was being casually chased away. Everyone was a little dumbfounded, especially the prodigies that came from other domains. They were already shocked when seeing Ko Wendong's attacks, surprised by how strong the ancient Baron's continent's experts were. When facing those in the same realm, they might not be able to defeat the ancient Baron's experts. However, they felt like their emotions were sitting on a roller coaster. From the sky, it plummeted into the chasms of the world. The expert they were initially in awe of was so casually knocked away, just like a fly. What in the world? This had truly exceeded their expectations. Initially, they were secretly scornful of Yi Shiwen for not knowing his place. While they possessed talents, they had yet to learn of the martial arts of the ancient Baron's continent. Without receiving the teachings of their sect seniors, their talents would merely be something laughable. Prodigies perishing was extremely common, no matter where it was. When the prodigy managed to grow, they would be considered a true prodigy. If they couldn't grow, their corpse would merely be the stepping stone of others' path to being invincible. And yet, Yi Shiwen did it so casually. With only his physique strength alone, he had easily defeated Ko Wendong, who was previously raging with a menacing aura. They were both in the Transcendent Realm first-level peak. How could someone be so strong? There were various Transcendent Realm first-level peak experts among them. However, based on their analysis, withstanding such an attack was already good enough. They weren't able to counterattack, not to mention trouncing Ko Wendong. It was simply impossible for a Transcendent Realm first-level peak to do so. If Yi Zaiwen's cultivation weren't in full display, they would suspect that Yi Shiwen had concealed his cultivation. Of course, they wouldn't know that the true martial domain only allowed one to cultivate to the Transcendent Realm first-level peak. As such, the true martial domain's Transcendent Realm first levels experts were all finding a way to increase their strength. Any one of the true martial domain's Transcendent Realm veterans with the combat prowess of a sect master would be able to defeat these prodigies. What's more, Yi Shiwen was close to invincible beneath the starry skies. Even the sect master level experts weren't his opponent. Of course, this was only limited to those that were at the Transcendent Realm first level. Shin Yinmei looked at Yi Shiwen and Ko Wendong. She succumbed into an awkward predicament. One was a friend that she just knew, which she had fun conversing with. And yet, the other person was her senior brother. She was in a dilemma, as she didn't know whether to cheer for or scold Yi Shiwen. Nice. Little brother, nice techniques. Our unparalleled palace was acting too rashly. To his surprise, The first one that spoke was the unparalleled palace's elder, who also had a smile on his face. He could tell that Yi Shiwen had already held back his strength from his previous attack. Otherwise, Ko Wendong might even be killed on the spot. Since Yi Shiwen held back, he naturally didn't want to go overboard. Since you're not willing to join our unparalleled palace and the Crimson Peak Villa, we won't force you to. We hope that everything ends peacefully. Yi Shiwen nodded and let down the guard in his heart. He was just afraid of this elder acting out of rage. Yi Shiwen dared to go against Ko Wendong, mainly because he had his trump card. Although the elder's cultivation far surpassed his, he wouldn't have any problems escaping. Fortunately, the elder was still somewhat sensible and didn't make things harder for him. However, Yi Shiwen knew that the elder's kindness was based on him defeating Ko Wendong so easily. If he didn't display such an overbearing strength, the elder wouldn't even care if Ko Wendong killed him. What he didn't know was that the elder had noticed his potential. While he wasn't in the Transcendent Realm 5th level or the 6th level, his current combat prowess alone was sufficient to capture the elder's attention. Even when Yi Shiwen and Ko Wendong were in the same realm, Yi Shiwen was far stronger, which implied that his potential was far more robust than Ko Wendong. The human body was just like a water tank. The stronger one was compared to others of the same realm. Their potential would be much more profound. If Ko Wendong's body were a water tank, then Yi Zaiwen's body would be a long river, its depths unable to fathom. Such a person might not have the chance to awaken their potential when they were still young. However, if their potential were awakened, their future would be limitless. If such a person wasn't dead, it might result in their calamity. As such, the elder displayed an uncharacteristic kind expression. Before the conflict got any bigger, it disappeared into thin air. On the other hand, he could even be on good terms with Yi Shiwen. Such was a favorable act. Open the door. Let's return to the ancient barons. Chapter 826. Chapter 826. Depose everyone's martial arts techniques. Crack. A dull sound resounded, and the colossal door slowly opened, and everyone rushed inside. The experts of the unparalleled palace and the Crimson Peak Villa had separated with each other very quickly, going to their destinations. On the contrary, Yi Shiwen wasn't familiar with this place, which meant he had no destination at all. As he glanced around, he realized that this was a vibrant city. Humans were walking everywhere, and it was very crowded. The most significant difference from the cities that he had previously entered was that everyone within this city was cultivators. There was no ordinary civilian at all. Even those handymen had the cultivation of the legendary realm. This place could be called a cultivator city. The ancient Barons continent was truly filled with experts. Only someone strong enough could survive in such a nourishing place. In the true martial domain, ordinary people were still able to survive. However, in the ancient Barons continent, other than a newborn, there were no such ordinary people. Little brother, you must be a prodigy from other domains, right? Do you not know where to go? That's fine. I have a map of the ancient Barons continent with me. It's only 5,000 spirit crystals for one of them. A brute confronted him. He seemed to have seen Yi Shiwen passing through the gate and immediately advertised his product. Yi Shiwen instantly became speechless. 5,000 spirit crystals. It should be known that only experts above the Transcendent Realm could materialize spirit crystals. 5,000 spirit crystals were equivalent to 500,000 elixirs. What kind of map is this? How is it so expensive? It would be fine if it were the map of the ancient Barons continent. After all, it was worthy of that price. Besides, 5,000 spirit crystals were nothing when compared to Yi Zaiwen's current wealth. After so many years of warfare, even though he had consumed a large amount of them, he still had over 1 billion spirit crystals. However, who would believe that the ancient Barons continent's map would be sold everywhere? This place was different from his previous life. In this world, maps were two precious resources of warfare. Without something like a satellite, the map of the world could only be studied slowly. However, this world was enormous. Forget about the ancient Barons continent. Even the true martial domain was much larger than the size of the Earth. Even if the map were accurate, Such a map wouldn't be sold for 5,000 spirit crystals. If the map truly inscribed the continent's details, people would buy it even for the price of 50 million spirit crystals. Although he had just arrived at the ancient Baron's continent, he wasn't someone oblivious of anything. During all the years he cultivated and trained in the true martial domain, he had already recognized such tricks and was aware of one when he encountered it. Yi Shiwen ignored him and continued walking towards the inner city area. The middle-aged man's expression suddenly changed. He retracted his smile and said, "Brat, you're finding trouble for yourself?" Yi Shiwen could feel a dozen or more brutes suddenly appearing around him and were surrounding him. "Brat, if you obediently handed over 5,000 spirit crystals, nothing would happen. However, you had the audacity to ignore us. This matter wouldn't be settled by just 5,000 spirit crystals now." The middle-aged man in lead snorted. His expression was too savage, as if his previous docile look was all just for show. "Today, I shall break a hand of yours as the price of your arrogance." In a nearby restaurant, the senior disciples and the new disciples of the unparalleled palace were inside, with their elders' lead. They would only return to their sect after having a meal here. Although eating was unnecessary for them, they mainly intended to satisfy the lust of their tongues. This was also a habit of theirs. "Elder, look, isn't that Yi Shiwen?" A disciple noticed Yi Shiwen, who was currently being surrounded, and quickly called the elder. With Shun Yinmei, everyone knew that his name was Yi Shiwen. Everyone from the unparalleled palace took a look in Yi Ziwen's direction. They had separated from each other ever since they entered the city. To their surprise, they met Yi Shiwen here once more. "He seems to be in some trouble," said Shun Yinmei worriedly. Such was her personality. She was a little pure and had no plotting mind. Previously, Yi Shiwen was already curious about how Shun Yinmei managed to survive in this world, where survival of the fittest was very apparent, seeing how pure of a mindset she had. "It's not only some trouble. See that middle-aged man? His name is Ma Yuanlong. In this city that welcomes the new, he's considered one of the brutes that bully others. In the past, many newcomers had already suffered from his hands. Some newcomers think too highly of themselves and choose not to join a sect before entering. Other than those unparalleled prodigies, Ma Yuanlong would target all the others," said a disciple with a snort, obviously looking down on Yi Shiwen. Although no huge clash happened between the two sides, he felt like Yi Shiwen was too prideful and didn't place the unparalleled palace in his eyes at all. In history, people like this would always appear. Even if their strength wasn't enough, they still thought too highly of themselves and chose not to join any sect. In the end, they would merely succumb to being an average Joe. In his opinion, Yi Shiwen was someone like that. If he obediently bought the map, nothing would happen. However, since he didn't buy it, he might have to face the wrath of Ma Yuanlong. Although Ma Yuanlong was only in the Transcendent Realm first-level peak, he's the absolute prime in this realm. If it wasn't for his cultivation being forked into a different path, he might have already been in the second level or even third level long ago. That disciple continued. "He's even stronger than senior brother Ko." Ko Wendong remained silent, without commenting on that disciple's statement. He merely looked at Yi Shiwen, his complex emotion written all over his face. It was apparent that Yi Shiwen trouncing him had a significant impact on his heart. His sense of superiority of being born in the ancient Baron's continent crumbled into nothingness. Yi Ziwen's expression remained calm. Seeing how these people didn't possess any good intentions, a killing intent flashed across his eyes. Do they think that I'm such an easy target to be bullied? Yi Shiwen didn't even feel like saying a word to people like them. His figure instantly moved, and he lunged himself towards Ma Yuanlong. Curses, such courage! Ma Yuanlong was taken aback by Yi Ziwen's action. He never expected Yi Shiwen to take the first move, despite being surrounded by others. He suddenly felt exceptionally shameful, as he was surprised by an ignorant brat. "You're seeking death." He instantly extended his hand. His terrifying energy transformed into a large eagle, which came dashing towards Yi Shiwen. This was the eagle claw technique, which had been cultivated by him to a grand scale. Even an entire mountain would be turned into a pile of debris. Cheap tricks. Yi Shiwen extended his hand. His thin and white palm instantly traversed through the universe and grabbed the large eagle by the neck. With a squeeze, the large eagle immediately exploded. The momentum of his hand was unabated. In almost an instant, it descended upon Ma Yuanlong's body. Bang! Ma Yuanlong didn't seem to have any strength to fight back. He was instantly knocked back and abruptly started spitting out blood. However, Yi Zaiwen's attacks had yet to come to an end. He instantly chased after Ma Yuanlong and gave him a kick. Boom! Another loud bang resounded. Yi Zaiwen's kick instantly shattered Ma Yuanlong's dantian. His meridians also shattered in that instant. Ma Yuanlong widened his eyes and hoped to be knocked out on the spot. His dantian was destroyed on the spot, and even his martial arts techniques were deposed from him. He never expected Yi Shiwen to be so cruel. Upon seeing Ma Yuanlong's martial arts being deposed on the spot, the other brutes who previously surrounded Yi Shiwen were all shocked. In the ancient Baron's continent, one would be considered nothing without their martial arts technique. They would become trash, free to be bullied by anyone. At this point, it was much better to kill him instead. They immediately turned around and attempted to flee. They weren't some sort of benevolent person. To begin with, they merely worked together with Ma Yuanlong due to the benefits along with it. However, seeing how even Ma Yuanlong wasn't Yi Zaiwen's opponent, they knew that they had encountered someone much stronger than them. As such, they didn't dare remain any longer. In the past, they were victorious no matter where they were. Although Ma Yuanlong enjoyed bullying the weak, he wasn't someone stupid. If a Transcendent Realm 5th level or 6th level prodigy was present, he wouldn't even get near them. And yet, Yi Shiwen was merely in the Transcendent Realm 1st level. No one expected this Transcendent Realm 1st level to be so strong. Ma Yuanlong could already be considered the prime within the Transcendent Realm 1st level, as he had been remaining in this realm for quite a few years. And yet, he was instantly defeated by Yi Shiwen. If Yi Shiwen knew their current thoughts, he would despise their thoughts. How many years were quite a few years? It should be known that most people in the true martial domain had remained in the Transcendent Realm 1st level for thousands of years. How is it comparable? Thinking of fleeing? Too late. Yi Shiwen had no sense of pity for these people at all. In the past, who knew how many people had suffered by their hands? This group was unmatched to Yi Shiwen. Even if they attempted to flee, they were still slower than Yi Zaiwen's speed. Within a short amount of time, their martial art techniques were all deposed by Yi Shiwen. The spectating crowd sucked in a deep breath, appalled by Yi Zaiwen's strength and his cruelty. Even the experts of the unparalleled palace were stunned, and lights flickered in Ko Wendong's eyes. Yi Shiwen didn't just hold back when facing him. Otherwise, killing him would barely take any effort. Among the Transcendent Realm 1st level martial warriors, no one should be stronger than Yi Shiwen. I agree. I've never seen a Transcendent Realm 1st level martial warrior to be so eerily strong. I'm afraid even some Transcendent Realm 2nd level experts aren't as strong as him. No wonder why he's so prideful. He does have his strength to back him up. So what if he's strong? No matter how strong he is, he's just in the Transcendent Realm 1st level. There are so many experts in the world, and even an abundance of people that have surpassed the Transcendent Realm. If he continues to be so prideful, he'll suffer from it in the future. Chapter 8:27. Chapter 8:27. Transcendent Realm 2nd level, yeah. And I'm afraid he caused a huge fuss this time. This Ma Yuanlong is so arrogant. In addition to his invincible Transcendent Realm 1st level strength, there is another major reason. His brother Ma Yuanfeng is the captain of the city guard. His strength has already reached Transcendent Realm 3rd level. Fortunately, he is out patrolling and has not returned, but he will be back tomorrow at the latest. If I were Yi Shiwen, I would leave hurriedly. Although the Xian city gate was enormous, it could only be considered a borderland in the ancient Baron's mainland. There was no strong master. The undisputed strongest ace, the city lord, was only Transcendent Realm 5th level. Transcendent Realm 3rd level could be considered one of the best. No matter how others discussed it, Yi Shiwen didn't care. 2 consecutive battles in one day made his realm protruding for advancement. As if it had been suppressed for a long time, it finally started to explode now. Not only the Star Beast avatar, but even his real self was eager for action. He initially didn't want to stay here for long. He wanted to leave here immediately, since saving the trouble of such things would not do any harm. But now he could feel that he would soon be unable to suppress his realm advancement anymore. He should at least choose either one to break through for it to be possible. Of course, both of them would have a breakthrough sooner or later, but there was not enough time. Ma Yuanlong's brother would be back shortly. As if he would let Yi Shiwen off the hook once he returned? What a troublesome matter! After thinking about it, Yi Shiwen decided to let Star Beast Avatar have a breakthrough first. Now, Star Beast Avatar could be regarded as truly invincible in Transcendent Realm 1st level. Even many Transcendent Realm 2nd level masters could not oppose him. Once he broke through to Transcendent Realm 2nd level, his combat power would skyrocket. He might skip a level altogether and become able to compete directly with the Transcendent Realm 3rd level master. He was off to a good start. Although he had not spent many years cultivating, he had been significantly suppressed in the true martial domain. While he felt very depressed in the true martial domain, it was not unbeneficial. The benefit was that his foundation was exceptionally stable. Now that he had entered the ancient Baron's mainland, he was approaching ascension. This was also true for his real self. He had not cultivated for very long, but due to factors such as his various adventures and martial techniques, his progress in every realm could be regarded as being off to a good start with a stable foundation. If he chose to break through his real self first when the time came to face Ma Yuanfeng, he would have to flee in embarrassment. Thinking of this, Yi Shiwen had an idea and immediately went to a nearby inn. "Damn boy, I won't let you off the hook. My brother will let you die a graveless death." Ma Yuanlong's roar came from behind. Disabling his martial arts was more unbearable than killing him. Yi Shiwen had the urge to turn around and kill him on the spot, but the feeling of being on the verge of a breakthrough in his body was becoming stronger. He couldn't be bothered about this Ma Yuanlong. Ma Yuanlong, whose martial arts were disabled, was just a nobody. "Elder, look, Yi Shiwen hasn't left yet, and even entered an inn. Is he planning to stay in the inn? Is he crazy?" The Unparalleled Palace's disciples said in disbelief. He kept watching Yi Shiwen, so he knew where Yi Shiwen was going, but at that moment, he couldn't hide his surprise. From his perspective, since Yi Shiwen had not left yet, could he be waiting for Ma Yuanfeng to return? Shen Yanmei also looked at Yi Shiwen anxiously. At that moment, she wanted to go down and remind Yi Shiwen to leave. "These matters have nothing to do with us. After eating, we will rush back to Unparalleled Palace. Let's not complicate matters," the elder said mildly. Yi Shiwen was not from Unparalleled Palace, so there was no need to worry about him. "Yes," all the disciples responded. Yi Shiwen entered an inn and asked for a room. Suddenly, as he was about to enter, there was a clear voice in his mind. "Yi Shiwen, you should leave quickly. You are in huge trouble. That big bad guy Ma Yuanlong has an older brother who is very powerful. You may not be able to oppose him." "It's Shen Yanmei." Yi Shiwen did not expect Shen Yanmei would transmit her voice to him. He couldn't help but smile, and his heart couldn't help warm up. At that moment, many people were waiting for him to be ridiculed, but the only one giving him reminders was Shen Yanmei. "Don't worry, I can handle it," Yi Shiwen replied, and then stepped into the room. Above the restaurant, Shen Yanmei pouted her mouth and glanced angrily at the inn where Yi Shiwen was in. "I kindly reminded him, but he didn't listen." Yi Shiwen certainly didn't know Shen Yanmei's indecisiveness now. After he entered the room, he laid down layers of barriers and then directly entered Tianyuan Mirror. As soon as he entered Tianyuan Mirror, the Star Beast avatar couldn't bear it and changed back into its true form. The true form was over 10,000 feet long. Even half the space inside Tianyuan Mirror was obscured. In his body, countless laws and insights began to emerge. The mana and chi surrounding him swept into a giant cocoon. At that moment, even Yi Zaiwen's main body was motionless. All the spirits were drawn into the Star Beast avatar to control this breakthrough. If this were an ordinary breakthrough, it would not be to this extent. However, this was a cumulative breakthrough. It was like a flood that was being stopped by a dam about to wash down all at once. Its power was terrifyingly strong. Waves of chi kept hitting the barrier of the transcendent realm second level in his body. This was the first time he tried to strive for the transcendent realm second level. From the moment he entered the transcendent realm, he was told that he could only cultivate until the transcendent realm first level at most. Furthermore, in the true martial domain, the transcendent realm first level barrier was practically like a chasm that was utterly impossible to cross, so he never tried to break through. This was the first time he strived for the transcendent realm second level, and yet he daringly planned to directly break through to the realm of transcendent realm second level in one go. Although Yi Shiwen had a hunch that the time for the breakthrough was approaching, the realm of transcendent realm second level was like a dam. No matter how he washed over it, he couldn't break it. The first breakthrough failed. However, Yi Shiwen got a feel of the situation. At that moment, the Mingxin ancient tree began to bloom with colorful divine light, covering the entire star beast. Covered by the Mingxin ancient tree, Yi Shiwen suddenly felt clarity in his spirits. He was initially in an anxious mood, but he immediately calmed down. His mind was like still water, uncontaminated by dust. This was the Mingxin ancient tree's most prominent function, which was to keep people's minds in a state of calmness at all times. In other words, whenever they cultivated, they could maintain the best cultivation state. In fact, ordinary people would sometimes be in a good state and sometimes in a bad state. When they were in a good state, they could break through a few levels in a flash, but they might not have any breakthroughs for decades if they were in a bad state. Every breakthrough and cultivation consumed spirits. Once it was overconsumed, or if there was no progress for a long time, then it might develop into anxiety, or even in severe cases, it might become qi deviation. But for Yi Shiwen, who possessed the Mingxin ancient tree, these were no problems. With the Mingxin ancient tree, he could keep his spirits in the peak state almost all the time. The colorful divine light shone down. Yi Shiwen consumed a little spirit to replenish it a bit, and he was in the peak state anytime, anywhere. And at that moment, the mysterious space in his main Bodhis mind was also infused with a large amount of spiritual energy, releasing colorful divine light that enveloped the star beast avatar. The various martial techniques and secret techniques that belonged to the star beast bloodline were instantly deduced to perfection. Also, all the insights from multiple realms were all infused into the star beast avatar. These insights and understandings had now become Yi Zaiwen's best helpers. He soon regrouped his forces and once again directed Qi to strive for Transcendent Realm second level. Although he failed the previous time, he was not discouraged at all. The Mingxin ancient tree kept his spirits clear at all times, and the mysterious space was constantly deducing all kinds of insights to perfection and branding them into his spirit. There were also over 100 million spirit crystals and a dragon vein that could be converted into spiritual energy at any time, continuously replenishing the qi he consumed. Success is only a matter of sooner or later. This was his most immense capital. Fail for the second time, fail for the third time, fail for the fourth time, fail for the fifth time. Yi Shiwen didn't know how many times he had failed. He had already become numb. For ordinary people, it was difficult to fail once and want to try again, so this close cultivation was often measured in years. It was like how Mu Xingjie only came out after more than 20 years of close cultivation. However, Yi Shiwen was not the case. He paid no attention to anything and just kept striving for it. If he failed, he tried again. Every attempt was continuous, but because he was in excellent state, each attempt was like the first. Although he didn't break through, with Yi Zaiwen's constant pursuits, the barrier became thinner and thinner. Finally, after an unknown amount of time had passed, he trembled and the qi finally broke through the entire barrier. It was completely flattened by a force at lightning speed. It should be known that an average person often required time to solidify the cultivation after a breakthrough because there was still some realm barrier left. If one was not careful, the realm may even regenerate, and then the cultivation would regress one level. But Yi Shiwen smashed all the barriers in the instant he broke through, which solidified the cultivation of Transcendent Realm second level straight away, eliminating the need to solidify the cultivation. The surging power was boiling in his body. He now had the urge to roar at the sky. Suddenly, he noticed a tyrannical spiritual sense that swept through his room outside, and all the defensive arrays were broken in an instant. Chapter 8:28. Chapter 8:28. The shock of the masters in the city. Yi Shiwen opened his eyes. What is coming will come anyway. Above the inn, a dozen people were lined up horizontally in the sky, all of them in black, iron-heavy armor. The leader was a general who appeared about 30 years old and somewhat resembled Ma Yuanlong. A boundless aura rolled off his body. This was a terrifying force. A boundless killing intent swept through. Such a terrifying momentum suddenly shocked many people. Is he Ma Yuanfeng? Hiss, he is back. He must be here to trouble that person named Yi Shiwen. He's truly terrifying. The Transcendent Realm third level strength is practically unrivaled except for the city lord and a few clan heads. That person is doomed. Even after disabling Ma Yuanlong's martial arts, he has the guts to be reckless and not leave. Isn't he seeking his own death? Yes, the brothers Ma Yuanlong and Ma Yuanfeng have a very good relationship. Otherwise, Ma Yuanlong would not be so arrogant and overbearing. Now that Ma Yuanlong's martial art has been disabled, how could Ma Yuanfeng not come to exact revenge? Ma Yuanfeng did not hide his body at all. It covered everywhere within a dozen-mile radius. Boom! A figure jumped out of the inn and flew into the air, facing Ma Yuanfeng from a distance. So, you are the one who disabled my brother's martial arts? Ma Yuanfeng forcibly suppressed his anger. Through the armor, his voice was hollow and laced with a bit of anger. That's right. Yi Shiwen nodded. How dare you? A fierce light flickered in Ma Yuanfeng's eyes. Yi Shiwen had been very ruthless, disabling the Dantian altogether and crushing it into chaos. Ma Yuanfeng could not even heal Ma Yuanlong. He got what he asked for. Yi Shiwen said coldly. It is because, as his brother, you spoiled him. If not for your support, how could he have become so arrogant? How many people have died in his hands in the past? This is nothing more than retribution. If you are saying someone hurt him, then it is you, his brother. Who hurt him? Are you looking for death? Are you trying to irritate me? How can those nobodies compare to my brother? Ma Yuanfeng's anger was almost unsuppressible, and the killing intent in his eyes enveloped Yi Shiwen. Perhaps those people were nobodies in your eyes. In my eyes, your brother is simply a nobody too. Yi Shiwen said coldly, as if he was trying to provoke Ma Yuanfeng deliberately. How dare you think of my brother as a nobody? Ma Yuanfeng laughed due to rage. What's the matter? Is your city lord also coming to subdue me? Yi Shiwen glanced at the people surrounding Ma Yuanfeng and said, those around him were guards, who were all masters from the city. It would be fine if it were just Ma Yuanfeng, but the situation would be different if the city lord mansion were involved. You don't need to goad them. I sought you out today because of a private matter. This has nothing to do with the city lord mansion, said Ma Yuanfeng. Yi Shiwen breathed a sigh of relief. Generally speaking, the city lord mansion would not become involved in these things because these young people, although their current cultivation was not superb, they had unlimited potential. No one could limit their future achievements. If one really angered them, that person would most likely get into trouble in the future. If that's the case, then come with me. Yi Shiwen stomped his foot straight away, and his figure suddenly lashed out. He changed into a stream of light and flew directly into the sky. Where are you going? Ma Yuanfeng snorted coldly and chased after him. Although he was wearing heavy armor, his speed was not slow at all. The terrifying strength of Transcendent Realm 3rd level was vividly demonstrated at that moment. In midair, Yi Shiwen slowed down, and Ma Yuanfeng caught up. He stared at Yi Shiwen coldly and said, "I'm going to disable your martial arts top, then cut off your limbs and hang them at the city gate. See if anyone else will still dare behave presumptuously here." The horrible aura from Ma Yuanfeng's body spread out, tightly enveloping Yi Shiwen. It was like a vast ocean, endless. "Cut off my limbs? Just because of these words of yours. You are done for today." Yi Zaiwen's eyes flickered with light, and the golden divine light instantly crawled all over his body, as if he was wearing a golden robe. A domineering aura spread out, colliding fiercely with Ma Yuanfeng's aura, not giving way at all. "I'm done for?" Arrogance. "Where do you think this is? Do you think we are still in your original small world?" Ma Yuanfeng smiled coldly. His wild aura spread all around him. During this period of time, he also found out about Yi Zaiwen's origin. He was another genius who hailed from a small world. He had just arrived. That was why he was so reckless and arrogant. He was probably this way because he was used to being reckless in his original world. He looked down upon Yi Shiwen. Perhaps he was a genius in his original world and his future was promising, but unfortunately not here and not now. What is there to fear about an enemy with huge potential? Just throttle him early on. The very same day next year will be your death anniversary. Ma Yuanfeng roared loudly and summoned a long spear in his hand. The entire air began to boil. Wherever the spear passed through, countless clouds were minced in an instant. His figure leapt out, the spearhead instantly releasing a terrifying shot instantly. He rushed all the way down from the sky and tried to stab Yi Shiwen to death on the spot. Yi Shiwen took a step back and stomped hard. The space he passed through was vibrating intensely. Instead of evading, he rushed straight up. He squeezed his fingers into a fist, and the shattered star fist blasted out in an instant. The fist turned into a huge star in the sky and collided fiercely with the spear. It was a terrifying collision. Both sides used all their strength and did not hold back. With the collision point as the center, a terrible storm quickly formed and swept out in all directions. When the storm cleared, Yi Shiwen stepped back 2 steps. Only then did he slowly stop his footsteps. In the previous exchange of blows, Yi Shiwen was at a disadvantage, but Ma Yuanfeng's eyes widened. "Impossible. You are a mere Transcendent Realm 2nd level. How are you able to oppose me?" Ma Yuanfeng couldn't believe it. Although the gap between Transcendent Realm 3rd level and Transcendent Realm 2nd level was not as big as the gap between half-step Transcendent Realm and Transcendent Realm, it was still substantial. Although he heard that some geniuses could fight someone above their levels, he never thought that one would appear right before him. Contrasted with Ma Yuanfeng's disbelief, Yi Shiwen, who was knocked back, instead became a little excited. This fight turned out as he expected. Although he was only Transcendent Realm 2nd level, he was definitely able to contend with the 3rd level masters. Whether it was in terms of chi saturation, combat skills, or physical strength, Yi Shiwen was still above Ma Yuanfeng despite being Transcendent Realm 2nd level only. His Star Beast avatar itself was far beyond a normal person. This made him excited instantly. He became truly confident. Not to mention he had not truly integrated the power that belonged to the Transcendent Realm 2nd level yet. Once it was fully integrated, he could even destroy this Ma Yuanfeng. However, Ma Yuanfeng was only stunned for a moment. He immediately followed up with a cold snort. "Let me see how long you can last." Flying Scorpion Divine Spear Scripture. His long spear rushed over immediately, changing into a huge scorpion in midair. It swooshed down on the spot. The long spear tip turned into a dangerous flying scorpion stinger and impaled downward. Yi Shiwen could feel a puff of poison rushing towards his face. Although he knew it was condensed from qi, it obviously had Ma Yuanfeng's own essence. Under Ma Yuanfeng's control, it was no different from a real flying scorpion. Yi Shiwen blasted out a punch. It was nothing fancy, just an ordinary punch. The fist was like a star in the sky, piercing through the vast sky as if about to shatter it. Ding! The stinger of the flying scorpion impaled the fist on the spot. Only a crisp sound of collision could be heard, but the stinger seemed to have pierced through the surface of water, and Yi Zaiwen's fist became rippled with gold. Immediately after the offensive attacks from both sides, Yi Zaiwen's fist slammed into the flying scorpion's body with an overwhelming force. Boom! There was a loud bang. The collision of terrifying powers formed circles of energy waves. The flying scorpion's outer shell broke on the spot, and the whole flying scorpion was crushed into two halves by Yi Zaiwen's fist. This newcomer is so powerful. He only just arrived, but he is actually on par with Commander Ma. We haven't seen such a powerful newcomer for many years, right? Yes, but no. Our fort is very small, and we are only connected to a few small words. It is not comparable to other forts that are connected to the big worlds. Those are the places where monsters will actually appear. It is said that some are already Transcendent Realm 5th level and 6th level the moment they appear. A real monster is already at the peak of the Transcendent Realm the moment they appear. That's a real monster. But even so, this is also impressive. I heard that he refused the recruitment of Unparalleled Palace and Crimson Peak Villa. But also, with his powerful strength, maybe he will have chances to join other sects of higher level. Well, but it depends on who wins and who loses. As of now, they appear to be on par. Ma Yuanfeng's offense was unexpectedly wiped out by Yi Shiwen on the spot, which immediately attracted the attention of countless masters in the fort. It should be known that in this city, although there were no top masters, there were still many Transcendent Realm masters. The battle between Yi Shiwen and Ma Yuanfeng attracted the attention of countless people. Even ordinary people were equipped with martial arts. Yi Shiwen and Ma Yuanfeng being on par left them in shock at once. Chapter 829. Chapter 829. Beheading Ma Yuanfeng as the city gate leader. Ma Yuanfeng would naturally not be weak. Besides the superior city lord, who was Transcendent Realm 5th level peak, and a few other major clan chiefs who were Transcendent Realm 4th level, Ma Yuanfeng was undeniably an outstanding master in the city. Now, he unexpectedly could not handle Yi Shiwen. Ma Yuanfeng was already thousands of years old, while this Yi Shiwen did not seem to be even 1,000 years old and looked quite young. If you can contend with Ma Yuanfeng, then your genius title is not fake. You expectedly still have a few tricks. Ma Yuanfeng stared at Yi Shiwen coldly. But if this is all you're capable of, you will die today. Killing intent flashed through Ma Yuanfeng's eyes. His face was cruel and cold. Boom! Ma Yuanfeng launched a long spear in an instant. The flying scorpion swooshed and rushed toward Yi Shiwen. With every tremble, the spear tip could pierce the sky, like an invincible Greek master rushing to kill. Yi Shiwen acknowledged that this might be the most terrifying master he had ever encountered since his debut. This was a terrifying master he could never have encountered when he was in the true martial domain. However, if this master was on the same level as Li Feng and Big Dipper Constellation Emperor, Yi Shiwen could not hold a candle to him at the moment, and even masters who surpassed Transcendent Realm could not either. As for why they possessed such terrifying combat power, Yi Shiwen also didn't know. Everyone had their secrets. Yi Shiwen could not possibly investigate all the secrets, but nevertheless, there must be a reason. However, the stronger the opponent, the more they could make Yi Zaiwen's blood boil. His path could only grow further by constantly defeating stronger masters. He could make it from the true martial domain to the ancient barons' mainland by constantly defeating stronger masters, defeating opponents who were more talented and more ruthless, and continually challenging powerhouses. Try me. Yi Shiwen laughed loudly. The robe imbued with golden divinity, sheltering his body, was boiling, and his fist flashed with terrifying light in the void. He collided with Ma Yuanfeng with no reservation. Boom! 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 The overall strength of the two seemed to be on par. Ma Yuanfeng's power realm was ahead of Yi Shiwen, but Yi Shiwen was not inferior to Ma Yuanfeng, whether it was qi or physical strength or other aspects. On the flip side, Yi Shiwen might be even more potent than him. Terrifying radiance glittered every time the two exchanged blows. The shockwave erupted from the battle, even swept downwards. The city formation was triggered by its own to shield off the possible damage from the shockwave. Although Ma Yuanfeng used a spear, he employed a bizarre and erratic movement technique. He was like an assassin in the dark, waiting for the critical moment to deliver a fatal blow to the opponent, just like a scorpion's stinger. But Yi Shiwen was different. Yi Shiwen took a domineering path instead. His unparalleled tyranny, just like a mighty overlord. Ma Yuanfeng had no way out when facing such an opponent. As Yi Shiwen gradually adapted to Transcendent Realm's second-level combat power, slowly, he began to lose his upper hand. As an assassin, he had to wait in the dark to deliver a fatal blow to the opponent. However, in front of Yi Shiwen, it was like he had encountered a tortoise, and there was no opening for him. In terms of speed, he was not as fast as Yi Shiwen. His so-called bizarre and erratic movement technique was a laughingstock when faced with Yi Ziwen's speed. Moreover, Yi Ziwen's physical body was too strong, and it was covered with divinity. Even if his long spear pierced Yi Ziwen's body, it would not be able to break the defense at all. Ma Yuanfeng was helpless to encounter a bizarre opponent. In a short period, they exchanged over 1,000 blows. The more they battled, the more frightened he was. How can there be such a person? As far as he knew, no one could be the best in all aspects. Yet Yi Shiwen had completely overturned his perception. Toward the end of the fight, both sides only used simple moves to strike. There were no more flowery tricks. In other words, the initiative of the whole battle had fallen into Yi Ziwen's hands and was now beyond Ma Yuanfeng's control. Basically, however Yi Shiwen wanted to fight, Ma Yuanfeng had to match him. Yi Ziwen's fighting style was very simple. It was straightforward and direct. With each strike on the opponent's body, it kept throwing the question of whether to be on guard or not. To parry or not to parry. If I don't parry, he will kill me on the spot. If I parry, I will fall into Yi Ziwen's control and be forced to follow his rhythm. In the city, countless people who were spectating this battle were shocked. Previously, it was a surprise for Yi Shiwen to be able to contend with Ma Yuanfeng, but now he had forced Ma Yuanfeng into a complete disadvantage. What kind of situation is this? Is this newcomer this strong already? Bang! Ma Yuanfeng was blasted by Yi Ziwen's fist once again. Although Ma Yuanfeng managed to dissipate the majority of the impact, he still suffered some injuries. There was some blood dripping at the corners of his mouth. His eyes were dark and cold, but his arms were shaking. Yi Shiwen was too powerful. Just one smash could break apart the Higu Acupoint one. Yi Shiwen sneered and squeezed his fingers into a fist. With a crisp sound, the sound of cracking bones came from Ma Yuanfeng's whole body. Sure enough, battling was the source of progress. After this battle, he finally integrated his strength to its best. In other words, he was already able to control the strength of the Transcendent Realm's second level. He initially thought it would take a while. He didn't expect it to be so soon. I still want to thank you. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be able to control my strength after a breakthrough so quickly. Yi Shiwen grinned. But it should stop here. Yi Shiwen yelled, and his figure jumped out in an instant. At this moment, a long sword suddenly appeared in his hand. It was composed of a sword will. Instantly, a gust of shocking sword will manifested in the sky, growing bigger. It was growing with the wind as if it was about to poke a large hole in the universe. Invincible sword. Boom! That terrifying sword will swoosh down in an instant. Ma Yuanfeng didn't even have time to dodge before the sword will struck him. A long slash was inflicted on his chest with his ribs completely slashed by the sword will. Boom! At last, Ma Yuanfeng was unable to resist the strange power incorporated into the sword will. He flew out on the spot. At the moment he flew, the sword will rushed into his body. His physical body burst open on the spot, turning into a cluster of blood mist. A ball of blood light suddenly emerged from Yi Ziwen's body. The blood light assimilated the blood mist cluster on the spot. It's over. Everyone stared at this scene in a daze. In the end, the situation ended up like this. The initially tyrannical Ma Yuanfeng was beheaded and turned into a blood mist on the spot. He had no way to retaliate at all. How can this newcomer be so overwhelming? Which world did he hail from? Yi Shiwen only felt relief after seeing that Ma Yuanfeng successfully beheaded at last. Just now, most of his spiritual senses were placed in the City Lord mansion. He was afraid that the City Lord would also come to the rescue. If it came to that, he could only forcibly kill Ma Yuanfeng and then escape. He was still able to behead Transcendent Realm 3rd level Ma Yuanfeng, but if he faced Transcendent Realm 5th level City Lord, he had no other option besides turning around and fleeing. Moreover, Ma Yuanfeng was the City Lord's subordinate. There was a good reason for him to come to the rescue now, so Yi Shiwen was quite cautious. Fortunately, the worst-case scenario that Yi Shiwen was worried about did not happen. Seeing that Yi Shiwen had some doubts, Yi Mo smiled and said, "What's so strange about this? Although Ma Yuanfeng is his capable subordinate, there is nothing he wouldn't give up compared to someone with unlimited future potential. The takeaway is that he is not sure that he can eliminate you. If he can't eliminate you, the tables can be turned easily. It's not like similar things have never happened. If it's a big sect, they could not care, but they don't have that many masters, nor are they strong. Naturally, they have to think twice about their actions. In other words, if you were only an ordinary Transcendent Realm 1st level, he may have taken action straight away. It would take no effort to crush you. Anyone would know which to choose," said Yi Mo. This young brother, what Ma Yuanfeng did, can only be considered his own personal action. It does not reflect the intentions of our City Lord mansion. Suddenly, Yi Shiwen received a voice transmission from none other than the City Lord. Yi Shiwen sighed. The powerful were respected everywhere. Only the powerful could make others fear them and save a lot of trouble. The weak would be wiped out over a small issue. This is the same no matter in which world. This Ma Yuanfeng was the same, and he ended up being abandoned by the City Lord mansion. Even revenge wasn't worth mentioning. Nevertheless, this was for the best too. It could save a lot of trouble, since he didn't have to face the situation of being pursued by the City Lord mansion. Otherwise, with the City Lord's personality, he would seek revenge in the future. That's good. I don't intend to become an enemy of your city. Let's flip this page over. Yi Shiwen clasped his hands and said in the direction of the City Lord mansion. That's what I hope for. I wish the young brother a bright future and a smooth journey, and I wish you to become a household name in the future. The City Lord's voice came from the City Lord mansion again, but there was no more sound after that. Yi Shiwen didn't care. He was just glad this was over. After Yi Shiwen transformed into a ball of light and landed, he went straight away to find the city's teleportation array. After all, the city gate was not actually in the ancient Baron's mainland when it was first established. It was only to attract geniuses from different worlds. Later, it slowly reached this scale. Also, there was not only just one city gate. There were many worlds in this universe, so there were as many city gates except there were differences in size. The bigger and more prosperous the connected world, the bigger the city gate. This city gate could only be regarded as a small one. If he wanted to go to the ancient Baron's mainland, he would have to go through the teleportation array here to be able to teleport directly to the ancient Baron's mainland. 1. http://www.acupuncture.com/education/points/large intestine/leaf4. HTM. Chapter 830. Chapter 830. I want to kill Yi Shiwen quickly found the teleportation array in the city. Patron, 1,000 spirit crystals please. The person guarding the teleportation array in the city said to Yi Shiwen politely. The reason was simple. They had seen the battle just now. For a remote city like theirs, Yi Shiwen was already regarded as a worthy master, and a great sage like him could not risk offending Yi Shiwen. In the ancient Baron's mainland, a great sage could only be considered an ordinary person. Yi Shiwen didn't hesitate. At this point, 1,000 spirit crystals were a drop in the bucket for him, and not worth much at all. After paying 1,000 spirit crystals, the teleportation array was quickly activated. A light gate was formed within a ray of light. Yi Shiwen immediately walked into it. Suddenly, Yi Shiwen felt space distortion as if a terrifying force was pulling and twisting him. He knew that this was the legendary spatial ability. It immediately lit up the Tianyuan mirror, protecting him from head to toe within it. Now, Yimo fell into a deep sleep once again. He just swallowed all the blood essence of a transcendent realm third-level master and needed some time to digest it. During the teleportation, there was no day or night. Yi Shiwen didn't know how much time had passed, but a bright light appeared in front of the eyes. The sound of a noisy market reached his ears, and there was a crowd of people in front of him. Yi Shiwen knew that he had arrived in the ancient Baron's mainland. This was another city that connected ancient barons to the city gate, called Lingmen City. This Lingmen City was undoubtedly smaller than that city gate, with a population of about 4 to 5 million. Even so, it was already perfect. If this were Earth, it would be considered a big city. But in the ancient Baron's mainland, it didn't seem outstanding. There was the sound of peddling in his ears. People were moving everywhere. As far as he could see, almost all of them were warriors. Besides underage children, even the lowest ones were legendary. The slightly stronger ones were the Sage Realm and even Great Sage. When the legendary warriors walked on the road, they were cautious and humble. Clearly, they had no social standing. The size of the ancient Baron's mainland was hard to imagine. It would not be easy for Yi Shiwen, an outsider, to find Mountain Chi. Now that Wolf Cub was not there, and Yi Mo was in a deep sleep, even if he wanted to ask someone, he didn't know where to ask. All he could do was go to the city himself and follow the clues. Yi Shiwen shuttled through the crowd. When he passed by an inn, a faint cry for help suddenly reached his ears. "Save me! Save me!" Yi Zaiwen's mind suddenly cleared. Shun Yinmei. This was none other than Shun Yamiai's voice. There was no way Yi Shiwen would mishear it. Although he was in a noisy crowd, he was sure that he could not have misheard. "Yi Shiwen, what are you trying to do?" shouted the elder of Unparalleled Palace, who just walked in from outside the inn at that moment. With a wave of his hand, he dissipated all of the momentum Yi Shiwen was emanating. "You're even asking me what I am doing? That Shin Yinmei joined your Unparalleled Palace, and this is how you treat her? You let people play with her. If your Unparalleled Palace is sheltering evil people like this, I am thankful I never joined your Unparalleled Palace," Yi Shiwen said with a sneer, gritting his teeth. "What do you know? What do you know?" The Unparalleled Palace elder yelled, but at the same time, he deliberately lowered his voice, as if he was afraid of disturbing someone. "Do you think we want to do this? We have no other choice." When the elder of Unparalleled Palace spoke, his tone was unusually dejected. "Do you know who that person is? That's the youngest son of the North Mountain Clan's chief. Can you afford to anger him? All right, I forgot. You kid just came from your little world. You don't understand anything." The Unparalleled Palace elder scolded him exasperatedly. "What do you think the ancient Baron's mainland is? Still the small world you came from, the world where humans dominate? Humans are just one of many clans in the ancient Baron's mainland, not even the most powerful one. Let alone the entire world, spiritual Door City, including our unparalleled palace forces, are all located in the southwest of the humans' territory. This is the borderland for the alliance between the human race and the 100 Clan Alliance. This is the wilderness in the eyes of the clansmen. To survive here, we can only choose not to offend the overlord here, the 100 Clan Alliance. This North Mountain clan is one of the top 10 royal clans in the 100 Clan Alliance, and its clan's head can influence the higher-ups of the 100 Clan Alliance. If we anger a powerful figure like this, the destruction of our unparalleled palace is just a matter of waving a hand. That North Mountain Ling is simply a wicked bastard. He relies on his father's power to do evil. How many people had their lives ruined because of him? But what can we do? If we want to survive, we can only endure it. This is also Yamiai's poor fate. That's why she became the object of affections of the North Mountain Ling. We are helpless too." The Unparalleled Palace elder revealed the bloody truth to Yi Shiwen. In the ancient Baron's mainland, humans were not the top clan, let alone the overlord. Humans did not dominate, unlike in the true martial domain. At the borderland of these two major forces, many human powerhouses had to grovel to survive in the cracks. This was a very realistic problem, one that no one could ignore. "We have also suffered," the unparalleled palace elders said with a sigh. "Are you finished?" Yi Shiwen smiled suddenly. His smile was a little cold and contemptuous. "Just because of this, you abandon her and let her be bullied. What else can we do? If we had a way, I would also want to kill that beast myself." Ko Wendong exploded and yelled at Yi Shiwen, his expression distorted and painful. "But what can be done?" "Huh?" Yi Shiwen chuckled. "Your blood is run cold, but mine hasn't. Your dignity is broken, but mine aren't. Your knees are bent one, but mine are still straight. Survival is not depending on charity, but striving for it with your own two hands. If the sky hinders me, I will go against the sky. If the earth hinders me, I will break the ground. And if the sea hinders me, I will turn it over." Yi Shiwen was never a person who would succumb. No one's survival depended on other people's charity. Under the original starry sky, how many battles have been experienced by his human ancestors? How many times have they struggled with life and death, fighting against the sky and the beasts, fighting with the native clan? Little by little, how much blood was spilled? How many martyred heroes died before they attained the overload position? It could be said that it was paved with blood and bones. Charity was not handed out to pitiful people. That kind of life was not worth it. "Yi Shiwen, what are you trying to do? Don't mess around. You will drag us all down," said the unparalleled palace elder quickly. "What is so noisy?" A cold shout came from the second floor, followed by a rush of footsteps. Two tall figures appeared in front of Yi Shiwen. They were as strong as two iron pagodas, no different from ordinary human beings, except for their square pupils declaring that they were different. They were guards from the North Mountain clan. "Who are you?" Seeing Yi Ziwen's face, the two spoke. Yi Shiwen sneered coldly. He reached out his hand, and he pulled a long saber out of the void. It was the Emergence Immortal Exterminating Saber. Whoosh! Emergence Immortal Exterminating Saber trembled frantically in his hand. The vast movement even startled Yi Mo, who was in a deep sleep. "Yi Shiwen, what are you trying to do?" "This Emergence Immortal Exterminating Saber has not been tamed yet. How can you use it now?" "I want to kill." One, an analogy of someone being submissive to the oppressor. Chapter 831. Chapter 831. Unleashing Divine Power. "I want to kill." Yi Ziwen's face was somber, almost as if he was growling. He could feel a wave of backlash from the Emergence Immortal Exterminating Saber. The Emergence Immortal Exterminating Saber was the last resort for the current him, but it was not wholly tamed yet. Even though there was no more weapon spirit to give him trouble, it was not a simple matter to completely brand his spirit onto it. Yi Shiwen could only forcibly use it now. "You asked for it." Seeing Yi Ziwen's murderous aura, the two iron pagod-like strong men knew that he intended to do something, so they immediately rushed over. Chong! An intense blade light bloomed on the Emergence Immortal Exterminating Saber. There was a violent shockwave, and the long saber screeched. Yi Shiwen almost lost control of it and slashed the saber downward on the spot. The Emergence Immortal Exterminating Saber automatically formed two terrifying saber auras. He slashed downward wildly, and these two terrifying saber auras obliterated all the two iron pagod-like North Mountain Clan strong men's attacks on the spot. The saber auras did not falter. They directly slashed toward the two iron pagod-like strong men on the spot. Puff! Puff! It was the sound of the saber aura entering both of their flesh. The two iron pagod-like strong men were split in half in one go and died on the spot. Yi Shiwen, the unparalleled palace elder behind Yi Shiwen, was stunned. The elder did not expect Yi Shiwen to do what he said. He was so violent that there was no room for discussion at all. Yi Shiwen ignored the unparalleled palace elder behind him and went straight to the second floor. At that moment, Yi Shiwen saw a scene that enraged him. That North Mountain Ling was already dressed, while Shinyami's spirit had been completely sucked dry and mummified on the other side of the bed. Haha, I didn't expect this human woman to be a virgin still. Although her cultivation was not high, her essence was pure. However, being able to die under my hand is also thanks to the virtue that her ancestors accumulated. Because Yi Shiwen arrived too fast, the North Mountain Ling did not notice that Yi Shiwen had rushed up here. Accumulated virtue? Yi Zaiwen's voice was almost a roar, and the emergence immortal exterminating saber slashed down on the spot. The North Mountain Ling finally realized that something was amiss. He felt an eerie aura approaching him and became stricken with terror. A shocking saber aura rushed toward him, wanting to cut him in half on the spot. He had no time to react before the saber aura cut into his body. Boom! With a muted impact, the saber aura did not cut the North Mountain Ling's body in half. At that critical moment, the inner armor in his body automatically protected his body. The saber aura shattered the inner armor in an instant. The saber's residual impact was not enough to kill the North Mountain Ling, but the terrifying force threw him away. The North Mountain Ling crashed a massive hole in the wall and was sent flying out immediately. Yi Shiwen stepped toward the bed. With a big wave of his hand, he retrieved Shun Yami's corpse into the Tianyuan mirror. Then his body immediately leaped out to pursue the North Mountain Ling, who was in the sky. How dare you hurt me? Do you know who I am? The North Mountain Ling widened his eyes in disbelief. Although he did a lot of evil deeds and murdered many households, his cultivation was not high. He dared to walk around freely with 2 guards because everyone knew and feared his identity, so he could run amok. Nevertheless, he suddenly discovered that his identity was only effective on those afraid of the North Mountain clan. Encountering a hot-headed person like Yi Shiwen, the gold medal he relied on to protect his body became a complete joke. It's just one dead person. Why do you have so much nonsense to say? Yi Shiwen shouted violently, already rushing in front of the North Mountain Ling's face. The emergence immortal exterminating saber shook intensely, and the air felt like it was boiling and burning. A saber aura slashed downward on the North Mountain Ling's body at a shocking speed. Bang! A colorful robe appeared on the North Mountain Ling's body to protect him. The violent saber aura and colorful robe collided, setting off a terrifying storm. The North Mountain Ling was blasted out again. Before anyone could react, he was blasted directly out of Spiritual Door City like a shooting star. It's useless. You can't kill me. This is the treasure robe that my father personally created for me. You can't break it. You are doomed. You are doomed. I will make you pay. I have never been injured since young, and now you injured me with your own hands. I want to slaughter your family and kill your clan. The North Mountain Ling thundered. He was petrified and also outraged. Meeting someone this stubborn, he naturally had to summon the magic weapon that served him well every day. As soon as he finished speaking, a long sword appeared in his hand. He rushed violently toward Yi Shiwen and ferociously tried to kill him. You have never been injured? Your time simply has not come. Yi Shiwen sneered. For others, this trick might have been able to entrap them. A person couldn't live just for himself and his world. Parents, relatives, and friends were all within consideration. Even Yi Shiwen was no exception. But for him, who was alone and had no kin in the ancient Baron's mainland, this trick was not a deterrent at all. The long sword in the North Mountain Ling's hand sparked with shocking light. It was an exceptional transcendent tool. As if it directly pierced through space on the spot, it practically doubled the North Mountain Ling's speed. Yi Shiwen had to admit that although the North Mountain Ling was arrogant and domineering, his cultivation was exceptionally high. He was afraid that it could be Transcendent Realm 7th level, 8th level, or higher. In short, Yi Shiwen couldn't tell. Under normal circumstances, Yi Shiwen was no match for the North Mountain Ling, but he now had Emergence Immortal Exterminating Saber in his hand. This was the treasured saber that once slaughtered the Holy Realm dwellers. Although the Emergence Immortal Exterminating Saber might not be able to unleash its original power now, And although Yi Shiwen might not completely master its power, it was enough to get rid of this North Mountain Ling. As if the emergence immortal exterminating saber in Yi Zaiwen's hand had been violently provoked by something, a terrifying light burst out on the spot, enveloping Yi Shiwen within it. It quickly spread out in all directions, forming a saber territory. The faint chanting of the Holy Realm dwellers came from it. Yi Shiwen couldn't stand the backlash much longer, and he was about to spit up a mouthful of blood. The stronger the power of Emergent's immortal exterminating saber, the stronger the backlash he would suffer, and it might even cause some internal injuries. If he didn't have the Phoenix regeneration technique to protect his body and continuously regenerate the wounds from the backlash. If it were an ordinary person who didn't have such a strong healing secret technique instead, he would have died from Emergent's immortal exterminating saber's backlash. But he had no other choice. He was burning with rage. The path of a warrior was to follow his own heart. If he were suppressed continuously, an inner demon would form sooner or later. Furthermore, he didn't think he was doing anything wrong. There were things that a real man would and wouldn't do. If he were like the unparalleled Palace, afraid of everything, then his passion for martial arts would be ruined, and he wouldn't be able to even dream of any outstanding achievements in the future. The long saber slashed downward almost automatically. It was the Emergent's holy kingdom crushing downward in the air. The sword momentum in the North Mountain Ling's hand was crushed and minced, and the transcendent tool, the long sword, in his hand also became suppressed by the holy kingdom. It broke into pieces instantly and exploded on the spot. Boom! The long sword in the North Mountain Ling's hand exploded in an instant. His palms were blown into pieces, and there was a sudden cry. "This is impossible. My sword is already in the standard grade. How could it be broken so easily in your hands? What saber is that in your hands?" The North Mountain Ling's eyes widened, and a greedy expression flashed in them. Even at such a time, he did not forget his true colors. "I want this treasured saber. With this treasured saber, I will be able to stand out among the young masters of the 100 Clan Alliance. Any trash standing in my way will be minced to pieces. Find this saber in hell." Yi Shiwen spat a mouthful of blood. Having suffered severe injuries, his face was abnormally flushed, but the saber in his hand did not falter. He slashed the saber directly onto the North Mountain Ling's body. Boom! The North Mountain Ling's colorful robe appeared once again, protecting him, but he was still blasted away. He flew and plunged straight into a cliff, creating a massive crater in the cliff. On the other side of the cliff was the sea. The salty sea breeze blew in his face. Spiritual Door City itself stood by the sea, and now Yi Shiwen had hit the North Mountain Ling there like a ball. Although the colorful robe protected the North Mountain Ling once again, this huge impact could not be eradicated. He still crashed terribly, spurting a mouthful of blood from his mouth. Except this time, his gaze became more sinister. He shouted madly, come on, you can't kill me. Your entire clan will die, because of you." "So, thickhead." Yi Shiwen snorted coldly, forcibly resisting the backlash. He brandished his long saber again and delivered a blow. Boom! 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 From the force of the long saber's attack, the entire cliff had been completely turned into a beach. Everything had turned into powder. Every time Yi Shiwen attacked, the colors on the North Mountain Ling's colorful robe faded a bit. Now it was almost transparent, as if one more blow could break through it. At the moment, the North Mountain Ling was finally afraid. Knowing that the next blow might cause him to die by Yi Zaiwen's saber, he felt very embarrassed at that moment. Although the Emergent's immortal exterminating saber did not kill him directly, he was undoubtedly suffering because of it, becoming severely injured. Suddenly, as Yi Shiwen was about to move his saber, he discovered that the qi in his body had already been exhausted. The Emergent's immortal exterminating saber's consumption was terrifying. Even his Star Beast avatar's large amount of qi could not support such consumption. He immediately opened Tianyuan Mirror and absorbed the spiritual energy of Dragon Vein into his body. Suddenly, his depleted qi began to regenerate gradually. "Accept your death." Today is the day you die. Yi Shuwen shouted. Stop, who dares to hurt my son? Chapter 832. Chapter 832. Escaping death, stop, who dares to hurt my son? A thunderous shout came from a distance. The speaker had yet arrived, but the sound waves alone could cause grievous harm. Just as the sound waves were about to hit Yi Zaiwen's body, the emergence immortal exterminating saber in Yi Zaiwen's hand became violently provoked and began to shoot an intense light, directly obliterating the sound waves. Yi Shiwen was also directly injured by this light backlash. For the present Yi Shiwen, Emergence immortal exterminating saber was a double-edged sword that hurt the opponent and himself. If he used it well, he could even beat this North Mountain Ling, who was far superior to him. If he didn't use it well, he might get shocked to death by the backlash on the spot. Ah, boy, you are dead. I will decimate your corpse and show you that you will be wishing death for offending me. Hearing his father's voice, the North Mountain Ling suddenly shouted with excitement. There was no longer any fear in his eyes when he looked at Yi Shiwen. On the contrary, they were dense with murderous and sinister emotions. Decimate my corpse? Let's only talk if you survive. Yi Shiwen yelled fiercely. He slashed the saber in his hand horizontally again. Wherever the saber passed through, the air boiled violently like boiling water. Boom! This massive blow directly broke open the colorful robe that had become thinner. Boom! Although the colorful robe removed most of the impact, the remaining parts still blasted directly into the North Mountain Ling's body. Suddenly, the saber aura exploded madly on his body. There was no whole skin left on his entire body. He didn't know how many bones were broken and was practically on the brink of death. He had never suffered such severe injuries since he was a child. For him, this was shameful. PFF. Yi Shiwen spat out another mouthful of blood. His face was a little pale. The backlash was too powerful. As he was about to get rid of the North Mountain Ling with another slash, the sonic boom in the sky behind him grew louder. Yi Shiwen, leave quickly. If you don't leave now, there won't be another chance. Yi Mo saw that Yi Shiwen was still a bit unwilling and said, You will still have a chance to come back and kill him in the future, but if you don't leave now, you will be dead. The man behind is too terrifying. I am afraid that he is a master that has already surpassed the transcendent realm. The emergence, immortal exterminating saber in your hands is no match for him. Yi Shiwen gritted his teeth and immediately made a decision. The man behind him got closer, not giving him the opportunity or time to take another shot. He could only shout, North Mountain Ling, when I come back again. It will be when I take your head. As soon as he finished speaking, a pair of wings instantly spread out behind him. His figure leapt dozens of miles almost instantly. Trying to escape? A cold snort came from the sky, and a big hand grabbed the air. It was like a beast's claw, thin and sharp. The big hand was so fast that it was almost moments away from catching Yi Zaiwen's body. The lightning wings behind Yi Shiwen trembled suddenly, and his figure leapt another dozen miles, narrowly avoiding the clutches of this giant hand. Yi Zaiwen's heart was about to jump out. If his reaction had been a step slower just now, he would have been clenched to pieces by that old miser on the spot. Father, you must avenge me. Catch that bastard. I want his spirit to be tortured forever and ever, and his spirit will never be liberated. The North Mountain Ling's wailing voice came from behind Yi Shiwen. His tone was full of contempt for Yi Shiwen. He had never suffered such a significant loss ever. Don't worry, Father will never let him off the hook. I will break his body into pieces. The middle-aged voice radiated through the sky. The North Mountain Ling could only be so arrogant and overbearing because of his father's pampering. Both sides were speedy. In just one moment, they had already rushed into the depths of the sea. Yi Zaiwen's speed was as fast as the North Mountain clan chief behind him. There were a few times Yi Shiwen could feel him getting closer. In Transcendent Realm, Yi Zaiwen's speed was exceptional and unrivaled by anyone in the world, but this North Mountain clan chief's strength surpassed Transcendent Realm. He didn't know what terrifying realm the clan head had cultivated, but Yi Shiwen was definitely outmatched. However, fortunately, his lightning wings had been cultivated to the peak. Even the North Mountain clan head behind him could not keep up with his short-distance rapid dash. He escaped the dangerous pursuit several times. However, North Mountain clan chief's figure got closer and closer, and Yi Shiwen could even hear the sonic boom behind him. "You livestock, where are you escaping to?" The North Mountain clan head's voice was already full of rage. He was dealing with the Transcendent Realm's second-level brat, but he failed to catch up to him after such a long time. Although he was getting closer, it was still shameful for him. Finally, after another day of pursuit, both of them had entered the depths of the sea. Yi Shiwen didn't even know where he was now. He only knew he had to flee frantically. He had to escape the North Mountain clan chief's pursuit first. However, this North Mountain clan chief, perhaps because his son's near-death circumstances had provoked him, was going all out to kill Yi Shiwen. He would not rest until he killed Yi Shiwen. He even rushed into the deep-sea region that he would not enter otherwise. Along the way, the two of them didn't encounter any beasts in the sea. After all, there was such a terrifying person pursuing him. That menacing vibes could be felt hundreds of miles away, and any beast would not be obtuse enough to dare to rush over. No matter how Yi Shiwen moved or fled desperately, the North Mountain clan chief was still getting closer and closer behind him. The difference in strength between the two was too great. At last, Yi Shiwen could see that North Mountain clan chief with his naked eyes. He was a well-dressed middle-aged man who somewhat resembled the North Mountain Ling. At that moment, his face was livid, and his eyes were bursting with flames as if he wanted nothing more but to kill Yi Shiwen, who was in front of him. "You livestock die." The North Mountain clan head attacked again. A long sword appeared in his hand. He drew a circle in the sky, and countless swords were condensed out of thin air. He sliced through the vast sky, and they fell one after another. Whiz! 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 The sky was filled with light swords with a piercing sound, almost obscuring the whole sky, as if the entire sky had become a sea of sword clouds. Yi Shiwen kept moving, and the lightning wings kept fluttering. His figure dashed in haste, but the light swords were so dense that he couldn't hide at all. PFF! A light sword plunged directly into his body, and the terrifying sword elemental force inside it exploded. His body was blown to pieces of flesh on the spot, but this was just the beginning. After the light sword pierced Yi Shiwen, his movements slowed down. More light swords fell on the spot, like a shark smelling blood. PFF! 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 Countless swords directly pierced Yi Shiwen's body and exploded frantically. Boom! Numerous explosive shock waves gathered into an ominous mushroom cloud, rising slowly. Yi Shiwen's body lost its vitality and plunged into the depths of the sea. The North Mountain clan head was breathing a little quickly. For him, the consumption of the large-scale attack just now was too great, and it was impossible to use it unlimitedly. His spiritual senses scanned for Yi Shiwen's body that fell into the sea. He discovered that there were already no signs of life, and his spirit had been minced a long time ago. He was sure that he was dead. Without any hesitation, he immediately turned around and went back. There were too many terrifying creatures in the deep sea, which were far more unimaginable than those on land. If he was not careful, even he might end up in trouble. In the deep sea, in the Tianyuan mirror, Yi Shiwen sat cross-legged on the ground. There was blood spilling from the corner of his mouth as he smiled wryly. No matter how he escaped, in the face of such an absolute difference in strength, he had no choice but to watch his star beast avatar get murdered, and even the blood slave's spirit within it was instantly obliterated. This was an absolute disparity of strength. It was just like heaven and earth. He could feel the North Mountain clan head's spirit scan the star beast avatar several times, as if to confirm whether he was dead. Yi Shiwen was also waiting. Presently, he could barely keep the star beast avatar from reverting to normal. After confirming again and again that the North Mountain clan head has left, Yi Shiwen let his true self out of the Tianyuan mirror and retrieved the star beast avatar into Tianyuan mirror. As soon as it entered the Tianyuan mirror, the Star Beast avatar reverted to the original form straight away. It was already a terrible sight to behold. There was no functional flesh on its whole body. Everything had been shattered entirely. Yi Shiwen looked around, but there was no sign of any beasts in the sea approaching. Fortunately, the terrifying aura released by the North Mountain Clan chief just now prompted the nearby beasts in the sea to escape as far as possible. Although they were beasts, they were not stupid. They understood that some people were too scared to provoke. If that were not the case, the bloodshed when the Star Beast avatar was injured just now would have attracted countless beasts in the sea. Yi Shiwen, this Star Beast avatar has been destroyed. It is impossible to repair. Yi Mo's wry laughter sounded in Yi Zaiwen's mind. Yi Shiwen also seemed a bit dejected. After all, the Star Beast avatar had helped him a lot during all those times. Without the Star Beast avatar, he might have died long ago. He could no longer cultivate such an avatar again. Initially, creating the Star Beast avatar was a remarkable opportunity. The primary factor was that the blood slave cultivated it using the spirit of the adult Star Beast at that time. It only succeeded because they had the same roots. But now he couldn't go there again to find an avatar like that. It was utterly impossible. For Yi Shiwen, this was a significant loss and a great injury to his spirit. Was it worth it just for a woman he only met a few times? Yi Shiwen couldn't tell. He only followed his heart, and he would never have regrets. Moreover, in his opinion, the North Mountain Ling was a scumbag who deserved to die. So let's not waste it. I have a demon skill that will allow you to swallow this Star Beast and merge it into your body. When the time comes, you will not only be able to directly break through to half-step Transcendent Realm Intermediate, you may even inherit the Star Beast's bloodline and talents. Chapter 833, Half. Chapter 833, Half-Step Transcendent Realm Intermediate. Yi Mo's words startled Yi Shiwen. Is there even such a secret technique? Is there even such a secret technique? Yi Shiwen asked. Of course, but this kind of demon skill is too ruthless and unethical. Everyone in the demon domain was fighting for it. So many forces in the demon domain joined hands to destroy it many years ago. My master coincidentally obtained the secret technique from the ruins, but my master was of high level and naturally didn't care about this secret technique. So he left it be and never practiced it. Said Yi Mo. Yi Shiwen knew that the master he was talking about could only be the legendary Demon King. Only someone like the Demon King could look down upon such a powerful secret technique. However, thinking about it, he could feel that this secret technique was extraordinarily powerful just by hearing about it. Being able to absorb human flesh and blood to inherit the bloodline and talent. This secret technique could thwart all the powerful clans between the sky and the earth. Many clans had their own unique, innate magical powers and secret techniques, but the bloodline must be the medium used to pass them down. In other words, without the clan bloodline, it was impossible to learn this kind of innate magical power, even if one died. They were born with it and didn't need to learn it. It was a gift from God. Like the legendary Dragon Clan, they did not require much cultivation and could automatically reach a compelling realm. Most human clans could only struggle miserably. Even if they cultivated desperately, they were no match for the Dragon Clan. This is the difference in talent and bloodline. But the power of this secret technique was that it could rob others of their bloodline. In other words, one could awaken the other clan's innate magical power in their own body. This also meant that outsiders could learn the innate magical powers initially passed down from generation to generation, connected through the bloodline. It meant that someone was shaking the foundation of their world order. After all, the world was still under the rule of these powerful clans. On what grounds were they given the right to rule the world? They relied on their superior talent and bloodline, which ordinary clans did not possess. This kind of secret technique that could rob the world of its natural order, one could imagine how terrifying it was. This was defying God's will and changing one's destiny, contending against those naturally advantageous clans for God's will. It reminded Yi Shiwen of the Tyrant Body scripture. It was the same, allowing people with average acquired bodies to attain a comparable body or even surpassing those naturally overpowered clans. This secret technique was robbing the world of its natural order and defying God's will. Although there were still various limitations after cultivation, it was undeniable that he gave those who survived at the bottom of the food chain a chance to climb up. This world was no longer unchanging. There were many more variables now. If Yi Shiwen did not have the tyrant body scripture, he might not have been able to get to where he was now. He might have just been a relatively ordinary genius at true martial school. It was hard to say whether he could have reached the level of Qi Fifan. This was like the counterattack that countless poor bastards from Yi Zaiwen's previous life on Earth chanted about. Those clans and masters who had all kinds of innate bloodline talents were like the tall, rich, and handsome men. Even if they didn't do anything, they could beat any poor bastard just by being born one. Whether it was the kind of demon skill Yemo mentioned or the tyrant body scripture, it was a martial technique that gave people a chance to close the gap between themselves and innate talent and go further. The talents of the predecessors who created this martial technique were merely unimaginable. But you didn't tell me about this before. There must be some reason, Yi Shiwen said. There must be some reason Yi Mo didn't tell him before. Otherwise, Yi Mo would have told him already. That's right. Because although this demon skill is powerful, there are many restrictions, especially for clans with various bloodline talents. Their bloodline power comes from their ancestors. The more powerful the bloodline, the more their ancestors are. If you kill him, you only kill him, but you have to face the backlash from their bloodline power if you want to plunder his bloodline. The more powerful their ancestors, the more powerful the backlash. Based on your cultivation previously, I was afraid you'll die from backlash on the spot, said Yemo, after you took in the Star Beast as an avatar. So I never brought it up, but now that the Star Beast avatar has been completely disabled and cannot be regenerated, it is better to let you absorb it. By then, your tyrant body will be stronger, and it will be hard to meet your match even at the same level. The key is that you refine the Star Beast itself into an avatar. In other words, it is only your body, so you will not suffer the backlash of bloodline power. It means it belongs to you, like moving it from the left hand to the right. You can avoid backlash. In that case, let's start quickly, said Yi Shiwen. He only arrived in the ancient baron's mainland for a few short days, but it made him realize that the strength he previously took pride in was nothing at all in the ancient baron's mainland. If he did not make fair use of the time to cultivate, he didn't know how he would die when the time came. Yi Shiwen dived straight into the bottom of the sea and found a cave at the bottom of the sea. Fortunately, the beasts nearby were already scared away just now. Now there was still residual pressure from the North Mountain clan chief here, so these beasts would not dare come back for a short while. It gave Yi Shiwen time to cultivate quietly. After finding the cave and laying down the array, Yi Shiwen drained all the seawater. Then, he went directly into Tianyuan Mirror to start close cultivation. This demon skill is called Devour Demon Skills. It was created back then to alter the imbalance of bloodlines. Said Yemo, now, I will pass Devour Demon Skills to you. After Yemo finished speaking, he continuously performed seals in his hands. Paragraphs of information branded into Yi Zaiwen's mind and went directly to the mysterious space in his mind. The mysterious space released a burst of colorful light. Soon after, the spirit crystals in Tianyuan Mirror began to burn in large amounts, changing into qi, which was then directly infused into the mysterious space. Yi Shiwen discovered that the mysterious space's deduction ability was becoming more powerful with every deduction. It could almost be said that it was hundreds of times more potent than when Yi Shiwen first obtained it. If this were the past, it would be impossible to deduce Devour Demon Skills, even if he could obtain it. Of course, insufficient spiritual energy was also one of the critical factors. 3 days passed quickly. Yi Shiwen consumed tens of millions of spirit crystals and finally completed the Devour Demon Skills deduction. After deducing the essence, he was able to start cultivating. Yi Shiwen sat cross-legged inside the Tianyuan Mirror. A burst of demon aura rose from his body. Yi Shiwen was no longer unfamiliar with demon aura. It could even be said he was now very familiar with it. In fact, isn't demon wings the ultimate demon skill? Suddenly, a vast demon claw stretched out inside his body and grabbed the body of the star beast that was lying supine. The claw grabbed the star beast into its body in one go. The blood essence and energy in the star beast's body were transmitted from the magic claws into Yi Zaiwen's body. Yi Shiwen suddenly felt a majestic and terrifying force burst into his body. The star beast avatar's body was 100 times the size of his true self, so the energy contained in his body was far above Yi Zaiwen's. For his true self, this force was tremendously terrifying. Fortunately, the star beast was also his avatar. This blood essence and energy were also in his control, so he didn't explode and die on the spot. Even so, his body gained more energy. His body was red all over. If he was not careful, he could explode and die on the spot. Now he finally understood why Yi Mo didn't tell him about this secret technique previously. Because even if he tried it before, he would end up dead without a doubt. Ugh! Yi Shiwen yelled lowly. Tyrant body scripture and observing person scripture began to run at full capacity, absorbing this tremendous energy. It was not only the energy of the blood essence, but also the extremely mysterious power that was trying to merge into the depths of Yi Zaiwen's spirit under the pull of devoured demon skills. Yi Shiwen immediately realized that this was the bloodline power of the star beast. Suddenly, he was dripping with cold sweat all over and in pain. This heart-piercing pain came from the depths of the spirit, as if his spirit was being torn apart and then stuffed with something. Just this pain alone could eliminate 9 out of 10 people from succeeding. Yi Shiwen was in so much pain his muscles trembled. He almost lost control of the star beast's blood essence and energy, nearly exploded and died on the spot. He could only summon the Mingxin ancient tree to anchor himself. Sure enough, after the colorful light of the Mingxin ancient tree enveloped him, despite the unbearable pain, it could no longer affect his consciousness. He was continuously absorbing the bloodline power and blood essence of the star beast. Yi Shiwen didn't know how much time had passed. He could no longer perceive time while in endless pain, and he didn't know how long it had been. He could only feel scales begin to appear faintly on his body. The silver scales made him seem like he was starting to transform into a humanoid star beast. But immediately, Yi Zaiwen's body gave off a kind of bronze light. It was the tyrant body scripture, instantly suppressing this abnormal change. It was the tyrant body scripture rejecting the star beast change. This was the most overbearing aspect of the tyrant body scripture. It used all the energy that came, but it did not allow the guest to become a host. His body became modified little by little. This star beast's power unexpectedly integrated completely with his tyrant body scripture. The star beast's body itself was overwhelming. What more with the tyrant body? Merging these two physiques, it was hard to imagine what level this physical body would reach. Boom! Yi Shiwen was finally unable to control the momentum inside his body. Under the countless impacts from the star beast's blood essence, the half-step transcendent realm intermediate barrier became overwhelmed on the spot. He finally entered half-step transcendent realm intermediate. 1. The translator disagrees with author's twisted belief. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.